No. Okay, let's do a quick arthi, and then we'll start with our little piece on tantric secrecy. Just a brief arthi. Okay. Oh my. God, we got it.
I love your hobo sock.
What's that?
I love your hobo sock.
According to the party,
Yeah.
I'm performing Yasa, the total. Oh, does anybody have a lighter? How did you light all these?
I did not.
You have a lighter? How did you get all
Tess
this?
has a lighter.
Gotcha. There's calmness. Thank you, G. Oh, this is one of those like fancy cool lighters. Yes.
I would still get you something like that, but you would lose it.
I lose all my lighter, and that's what
You
happens.
would give it away to somebody.
I would. No, sorry, I'm gonna give this away. I would do. The tips of these wicks need to be soaked in a bit more oil.
Just the tip.
Spit on it.
Oh my god, you don't have to hold it down, it just like stays in there. Whoa.
Do you want me to just like redo them?
So this is like Kentucky soil.
That's the thing. Look how rich it is. I'm so serious. That's why everything grows here so well.
No, it's a really good thing to put the yantra on this like Kentucky soil. That's a good idea. Tomorrow let's find like an awesome. Yeah, for like the front of the.
I'm just gonna hunt.
That's the thing for the puja like stuff, right? Like for
You can actually probably find some
Oh,
nearby.
it's for the puja mess. Oh, that's good. Thank you, Maddie. Okay, go.
Did the Airbnb people say we can't use the elk?
What?
Did the Airbnb people say we can't use the elk?
Huh?
My
Bell. There was a bell.
I rung it when dinner. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. No. Wasn't there a bell? I've never seen one.
Yeah, I rung it. I put it down.
was a
Yeah.
bell.
She rung it for dinner.
Yeah.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
I
we did
can
some.
do that. It
No,
might be
I
on tape.
did it over here.
Oh. That's hard.
We can make a candle.
Okay, we can like that, but I mean,
Where's
I
it?
know.
Now I'm concerned. I put it back in the same spot.
Yeah, you did too. I think you just picked it up and set it right back down. Yeah, you set it right back down. Oh yeah, equally confused.
there's some Bhutan mischief. That was important.
I just flipped it into
What is that today?
I have seen it. It
Super
wasn't
plastic
Yeah! So I was holding the bottom notes of the scale. So yeah, you can just like stand there like this. Okay.
Hi, Dickumbri.
Oh. We'll use these guys. There's it's like here in Kentucky, it's like yes, you have like an Indian store? Yes, we got this as an Indian store. Oh, you got Kushi. Good. Amazing they have that. This is
I don't know.
yeah, we're just like we use this like bath oil also. But no, on Saturday also
We're looking for a bell.
Oh, is it behind mom?
oh yes, thank you.
Oh, you found
Is
it?
it behind mom?
It's behind mom. It's right there.
Not conceals.
Let's not do this.
Oh no, yes. Thank you, that was the perfect time.
Second dinner.
Second dinner. Yes, that's exactly what's gonna happen. Bell, I have a flower petal.
Shit.
A flower petal can plug in.
You said
I mean,
the easier it is actually. Because
You're doing
we got
food on it?
options to work with.
No, this is gonna be for the fire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna do a 3D butt as
Oh,
opposed
you
to
want to really put all them sun bells on there, okay?
Then like when I finish that, I'm just gonna. What happened? It's weight practical. Yeah, like hold it right and you can do that. It's not practical. Oma. And if you want, you can join in for like 3 ohms or so we can tune to each other. Salutations to the families of Bhairavas and Bhairavis and the circle of energy. Salutations to the Shri Chakra. Sanera Chakra Deve Namah. Salutations to Guru, to Ganesh, to Kali, to Bhairav, and to the consciousness that I am. May this be an offering from that to that. Om Aim Guru Namah. Om Aim Mahvaya Shorami Swaha. Om Hrim Vaya Shorami Swaha. Om Hrim Shivaya Shorami Swaha. Om Aim Hrim Krim Shivaya Shorami Swaha. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Bhavam Sada Pashantu Suraya Diviva Chakshurapatam. Om Avitrah Pavitro Va Sarva Sanghato Piva Yasmare Kundali Kaksham Sadhyadyam Prashuchihi. Om Namo Deve Mahadevi Shivaya Sakatam Namo Prakriti Mandraye Niyata Pramatasmakam. Om Sarva Mangala Mangalyam Varanyam Varanam Shubham Narayanam Namaskritya Sarvadharmanikaraye. Om Vishnu 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 Yantraya Vimahe Mahayantraya Dhimahi Tanno Yantra Prachodayat. Om Ishvi Avartyadhyo Namaha. Salutations to all the deities of the earth. May they uphold this place. Om Itirana Pushpe Aratrikam Deepamalam. Devaya Namaha. Salutations to the light. Om Pat Ram Ram Hom Vam Krim 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 Om Krim Evam Deepamalakam Shubhadakshanakalikalevanam Hum Shram Yamam Vankro Mahakala Bhairava Sarvijnanashana Shahim Shrim Pat Swaha Evam Deepamalam Mahakala Bhairava Namaha Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma Om Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jayama, 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 Jaya Jayama, 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 Jaya Jayama, 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 Jaya Jayama, Om Jayama, Jayama, Jaya Jayama, Jayama, Jayama. Jayama, 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 Jaya Jayama, 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 Jaya Jayama, Om Jayama, Jayama, Jaya Jayama, Om Jayama, Jayama, Jaya Jayama, 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 Jaya Jayama. Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Om Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Om Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma 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 Jaya Rama Krishna Jaya Saradama 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 Jaya Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Om Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Jaya Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Jaya Ma Jaya Ma Jaya Ma Jaya Ma Jaya Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma Om Jai Ma Jai Ma Jaya Jaya Ma 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 Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji ki Jai Jai Mahamai ki Jai Jai Swami Ji Maharaj Ji ki Jai Jai Raj Maharaj Ji ki Jai Jai Shri Shri सिद्धेश्वरी अनाख्य देवी सर्वकाली माई की जय। नमो गुरुधिपते हर हर महादेव। I like to indicate that where that goes. We should drums. We should like have more percussion out.
I got a bucket in the truck.
What?
I got a bucket in the truck.
Go grab it.
Lots of hands.
Seriously.
Lots of hands. Well, no, really now.
I got a wood floor too.
Is that?
Some spoons.
Yeah, yeah. So, Irish nicely.
No, I can literally play spoons.
Can you?
Yeah.
That is so Appalachian.
Yeah, I know.
I
gotta see that.
We gotta have a spoon display.
You can literally make an instrument out of almost anything.
Or anyone.
I love the Jesus corner.
It rubs
I'm seeing them all the way over here. There's so many roots being built right now.
Okay,
It's
thanks for
crazy.
laughing.
No,
No, it's really
The
important.
soil is
That's
really
why
good
I
idea. Like your intuition, like let me bring the soil. Let me do an arati in my hometown of Kentucky and pour Bidostar into like.
She did. I didn't want to come.
Wow, Janma. Okay, let's do it. Om can toss this iron. आनंदेश्वराय विद्महे सुधा देवी धीमहि तन्नो अर्धनारीश्वरः प्रचोदयात्। Worship. Okay. When you're done, add those people, switch to gallery mode, speaker mode, so it doesn't record in gallery. Let's start with Kali Dhyana Mantra. Actually, no, we'll do a Shivji Dhyana Mantra. We'll meditate on Shiva. But important that meditate on Shiva.
Kalidasima.
Face Shiva. So, 5 faces, 5 schools of Tantra will contemplate our images, whether known or unknown, that are speaking through us. We'll contemplate the tradition that is projecting back into the past, contemplating the tradition as it projects forward into the future. And most importantly, for today and for this entire time we'll spend together, this yamana, this anuswara, where the past and present, where the present and the future come together, the sacred sexual union of past and future. So in that trika of the lineage before us, the lineage behind us, and the lineage that is in us, as us, you can think of the 5 faces of Shiva, the source of all tantric wisdom, of all wisdom actually. We'll contemplate this image as if it's in the heart or in the crown of the head. Often, Shivji as Guru is seen as Dakshinamurti with the 5 faces and the crown of the head. So wherever you'd like to place this visualization, or even better, feel that your body is Shivji's body, and you have the 5 heads, like stepping into the God form. Identify. Om Dhyaya Nityam Mahesham Rajataginibham Charu Chandravatamsam Ratnakalpojvalangam Parashumagavarabhitihastam Prasannam Padmasinam Samantatsutamamaragana Vyagritim Vasanam Vishwadim Vishwabijam Nikhilabayaharam Panchavaktram Trinetram. We meditate eternally upon that great Lord who shines like a mountain of silver. His limbs flash as if ornamented. He's holding in one hand an axe, in the other hand a deer representing the mind subdued. He's offering the boon-giving gesture and assuring fearlessness. Seated in the lotus posture, he is absorbed in the deepest meditation. All about him, gods and demons and all manner of beings are praising him. He is the ground upon which the universe rests, and the seed from which it springs forth. He is the light of pure consciousness, the dispeller of fear. He is the 5-faced, 3-eyed Shiva. Karpura Gauram Karunavataram Samsara Saram Bhujagendraharam Sada Sasatam Hridayara Vinde Bhavan Bhavani Sahitam Namami Kailasha Pirta Samamadhya Samstam Bhaktaishanandya Diviseryamanam Bhaktaviravana Prameyam Dhyaye Umalingata Vishwarupam Dhyaye Umalingata Vishwarupam. All the 5 faces of Lord Shiva are giving 5 streams of tantric revelation, and the 4 faces, like the 4 parts of the Bhupura, 4 gates, if you will, entering into the body, entering into the universe, are represented by 4 different deities, different goddesses, because the essence of Lord Shiva's revelation is the Shakta Tantra, the goddess tradition. So each doorway has a specific lineage deity. So we'll contemplate them now. In the north, we think of Guya Kali. In the west, we think of Kubjika Mata. In the east, we think of Malini, or sometimes Saraswati. And in the south, the Dakshinamnaya, to which we belong, we think of Dakshina Kali, or Tripura Devi. And now we'll meditate on her. We'll do her Dhyana mantra, invoking Kali. May this be an offering at her lotus feet. Om Krim Karala Vadanam Ghoram Muktakeshim Chaturbhujam Kalikam Dakshinam Divyam Mundamala Vibhushitam Sadyaschana Shirakadaga Vamadhurvakaram Bhujam Abhayam Varadam Chaiva Dakshino Dvadapanikam Mahamegha Prabham Shyamam Tatha Chaiva Digambarim Kantavasakta Mundali Garadhudira Charchitam Karnavatam Satanita Shavayugma Bhayanakam Ghoradam Shram Karalasyam Pinunatapayodharam Shavanam Krasanghatha Kritakan Shimasanmukhim Srikkadvaya Galadrakta Dhara Vispuritananam Ghoralava Maharotrim Smashanalaya Vasinim Balarka Mandalakara Lochana Titayan Vitam Nanturam Dakshina Vyapi Mukta Lampika Chochayam Shavarupa Mahadeva Hridayopari Samsitam Shivabhish Ghorarava Vishaturdikshi Samanditam Mahakalena Chasamam Viparitara Sukha Prasanna Vadanam Smeranana Saroruham Evam Sanchintayet Kalim Dharma Kamarta Siddhidam Evam Sanchintayet Kalim Dharma Kamarta Siddhidam Krim Kalikaye Vidmahe Smashana Vasinye Dhimahi Tanno Ghore Prachodayat. Shri Gubhyo Namah Ganganeshaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We meditate on that terrifying goddess Kali, Karala Vadana Ghora, whose hair is wild and free, Mukta Keshi, who has 4 arms, Chaturbhujam. She is that goddess known as Kali, the southward facing boon-giving conqueress of death. Kalikam Dakshinam Divyam. Around her neck hangs a garland of human heads, Mundamala Bhushita. In her upper left hand she holds a sword, her lower left hand a severed human head. She assures fearlessness and grants boons with the lotus-like poses of her right 2 hands. She is naked, clad in only the 10 directions. Her skin is the color of a dark, splendorous storm cloud. Mahamegha Prabham Shama. Her neck and body are stained red with the blood dripping from her garland. Kantavasakta Mundali Galadhrudira Charchitam. Karnavatam Satanita Shavayuma Bhayanakam. Her 2 earrings are made of corpses. Ghoradam Shram Karalasyam. Her 2 fangs are terrifying, Karala, but her 2 breasts are full and comely. Pironata Payodara. Around her well-formed waist is a girdle of dead man's hands. And she is smiling, displaying amusement and drunkenness. She sticks her tongue out, and her face is framed by the 2 rivulets of blood that drip from the corners of her lips. Her 2 lips are stained red with blood as she smiles. Her 3rd eye resembles the mandala, the circuit of energies of the rising sun. And all around her jackals are howling, filling the 4 corners with their dreadful shouts. She is standing on the chest of Sadashiva in the form of a corpse, and she is ever desirous of sexual union in the reverse position with her consort Mahakala, the Lord of Time. Her hair flows to the right because she's stepping over to the left with the left foot forward. She dwells in the smashana, the cremation ground of this world. She is that great terror that dwells in this cremation ground. Quick to answer any and all prayers. Her eyes rolling about. She is the source of all dharma, kama, artha, and siddhi. One should meditate upon Kali in this way. Om. May this be an offering to Guru, Ganesh, and to the Divine One. Om. Peace, peace, peace. So I think we should start a revolution. Because Kali's energy are all about what we call viparita. Viparita means opposition. Viparita. And like it's not about what we're opposing, it's about that we're opposing. There's not like a sense of this is bad or this is right. There's just a sense of dynamism being the essential feature of Shaktism. So Shaktism is the tradition that says the absolute nature of reality is dynamic and inclusive of the changing material immanent reality. And it includes that which most spiritual traditions tend to reject, and that's not a value judgment, it's just the unique feature of Shakti Tantra. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go deep into Shakti Tantra. We have time to like explore the areas that we don't really get to develop together in like an online setting. We can maybe do more practicals. I can watch you do more pujas, and later I'll just go around the room. We'll talk about the areas of tantric study and practice that you feel like you want some help in, and we can sort of craft a syllabus, if you will, together around that, and we can think about the things you want to study and talk about. But more importantly, I have an idea for this thing based on the Kali that we'll install on Saturday. And I think the idea here is around art making as being the essential sadhana of the Kaula Marga, and we'll leverage ideas of Shakti as vimarsha, as self-reflection. We'll leverage ideas of Shakti as dynamism and change and progress and immanence orientation, and we'll show that in the tantric understanding of reality, the best possible sadhana is art making, and there's nothing that's not art making. So ideally, what we'll do together is make art. Like ideally, this house should have like this startup flavor, where I'm going to introduce my special guest in just a moment. But like, where there's going to be like satsangs happening throughout the day at all hours as we're inspired to do satsang, and then art will be made in all mediums, and like that will be our mela, our party for Mother Kali. And sometimes it looks like puja, it looks like japa, it looks like kirtan, or any other kind of like traditional sadhana. But the purpose of gathering here is to kind of push the envelope as to what tradition looks like and what it can look like. Because I think what we are missing oftentimes when we talk about Tantra is how fucking punk rock it can be. And we were just discussing earlier that Tantra is inherently punk. It's inherently accessible. What?
Punk as fuck.
Yeah, it's punk as fuck, and it's inviting a kind of chaotic mosh pit energy that engages and includes all levels of society and creates no barriers for entry. And yet, this very thing that many of you have intuited is inherently freeing, inherently equalizing, inherently like accessible, is the very thing that, because of our lack of understanding of its historical context, because of our laziness regarding it in its original textual and traditional context, and because of our projections as an urban modern society trying its best to project into the past what we think actually happened, because of all these things, we tend to bake Tantra, which is inherently something that should be for all, limited to only a few. So I want to start now by just opening the time that we have together in this way. I want to talk about why Tantra is secret and why I don't think that kind of secrecy has a place anymore in the world that we're moving into. Because obviously there's so many different kinds of backlash that we get on the internet, and it's for different reasons, but I think the main thing that most people are upset about is this notion that we are somewhat desecrating the tradition or making sacrilege of the sacred by offering freely to everyone that which is supposed to be kept secret and guarded and reserved for only a few. So this like Marxist project of redistributing en masse spiritual knowledge, that's the kind of thing that I find that people tend to oppose the most. It's like a sense of, well, we'll lose value if everybody had it. Like if it was something publicly available, would we even take it seriously? Like if money wasn't hoarded by the 1%, if like everyone had the same amount of money, would we still fetishize it? Would we still want it? And more importantly, would the people who have it still have control over us? Because the problem with making Tantra this like elitist project of inclusion and exclusion, the problem with ideas like diksha, secrecy, the problem with that is that it creates levers of control that allow certain individuals to hold out esoteric knowledge or power in exchange for things like money or servitude or whatnot. So therefore, if we mass distribute, if we like break down all the walls and we make available and free to everyone what is reserved to only a few, then all that goes away. And so really a lot of this has to do with the consumerism that we find in the spiritual world. Like if it's a product that is no longer exclusive, if it's no longer limited, how will you sell it? And that's exactly what we mean to do. I think that's why this type of thing that we're going to do now should create some backlash. Like the whole point of punk, we would argue, as an ethos, is to say you don't even have to know how to play guitar to be in a band and jam with other people and put out a record. You don't even need to know how to make a record to have your vinyl pressed. You don't need a recording studio, you just need a garage and like a tape recorder or something. Like you can organize your own shows in your mom's house when she's away for an AA conference. Like that's punk rock, the feeling that like I can do it too. Because you have to imagine like people in the 70s and the 80s, they're looking on TV and they're seeing Duran Duran's like highly produced music videos. They're seeing people going to Electric Ladyland studio and record like really expensive albums, and I think there's a kind of elite, there's a rock and roll royalty, and unless I am like that kind of person, unless I'm from the UK and part of a very cool band with like bell-bottom shorts and with a fancy accent, I can't do this. This is not for me. This is for someone else. I can love it, I can enjoy it, I can participate in it as a consumer, but I can't do it. Like I'm not supposed to learn how to do it because I'm not the kind of person for whom it's for, you know? And then like, we just ask this question, like, why not? What is it about Jimmy Page that allows him to play guitar in a cool rock band? What is it about him that I don't have? Doesn't he have a nose and eyes and like things that humans tend to have? And some, of course, have variations here, but like, what is fundamentally different between Jesus and you? What is fundamentally different physically and psychologically between Ramakrishna and you? And Indian philosophy will argue again and again the psychological makeup of every individual, including the avatars, is going to be the same. In every individual, you find a basic mental plane in which sensations are received. You find an intellecting function which discerns which sensations are which and like what they mean to us, assigning value and making like judgments. We find a sense of egoity, a sense of this is happening to me, and these are other people and other experiences, and my experience is centered around a sense of particularization that's going to be common to Christ, it's going to be common to Grassi. And more importantly, we all have memories. Like the Christ maybe might remember certain things from his Levantine upbringing, and you might remember things from your Kentucky upbringing, but you're both still accessing the same faculty, samskaras, memory. So what is it about the Christ's mind that is foundationally and fundamentally different from yours? The same mana, buddhi, ahankara, chitta. And what is it about the Christ's body? Did he have different kind of blood? Like remember the royal people thought they had blue blood or whatever, and then like you looked at it and you realized, no, we're all the same blood, we're all the same flesh, and all the skin pigmentation might be different, the eye pigmentation might be different. It's the same cancers we tend to get. Same illnesses, same fate of the body. So if that's the case, what does Jimmy Page have that Jimmy in Minnesota doesn't? And he realizes this. He's watching Jimmy Page on TV, and he's like, I think I too can do that. But then he finds that like, no, there are like elite structures that lock him out of the music industry because they would prefer that he consume and then he create. Because otherwise, why would he go buy records if he could just sit in the basement and make his own? And so they say, okay, well, if you want to make a record, you need a record label. Like somebody has to pay you a signing bonus. Often it's like a contract with the devil because you owe the company back all that money if you don't sell records. So people are so excited when they get $200,000 for their debut record, only to realize that they sell 15 units in the local Amoeba records. They owe the record company all of that. It's terrible. And the record company say the only way you can make a record and have it on the bookshelves or on the shelves in the record stores if you take this money, enter into this contract, which is often very exploitative, and then you go to the studio and we're going to pay for the studio engineer. You don't know the studio engineer, the company just assigns one. And then you just do this thing by someone else's will, but then when you realize that you can record your own record, you can get your friend, who you know to be the sound engineer. And it doesn't matter whether or not he knows how to engineer sound, he's your friend. It doesn't matter whether or not you know how to play guitar, because when you play, you'll play it your way, and then you'll get like the Ramones. And so punk was really exciting because of its sort of like Marxist revolutionary flavor of inviting everybody to the party that were otherwise excluded. And so what it means for Tantra, I'm going to say like Tantra is inherently punk. And our pitch, our kind of revolution that I want to like bring back is like, this is the elevator pitch. Tantra, but think punk. Like Tantra but punk. And I'm going to explain all the ways in which Tantra right now is becoming not punk, because it's becoming the very thing that I think it's uniquely positioned to destroy. And it's becoming it because we don't understand its punkishness. So I want to do that. I want to revive and revitalize our understanding of Tantra as a grassroots, inclusive, transgressive, radical, and revolutionary punk tradition, and make a case that we are all of us here invited to something, and more importantly, empowered to do it in our way. So what if there was a possibility of being maximally grounded in tradition? That means like not forsaking learning how to play scales on guitar. But what if you could do that without thinking scales were very special? Like what if the scales were not the only notes that you could play, but a suggestion for notes that maybe are beyond the scale? Arguably someone who studies scales has maybe more room to be revolutionary than someone who's intimidated by a lack of technical ability. So my understanding here is that Tantra presents a very like nuanced, sophisticated, and refined tradition. But in that same breath, it can be confining because you feel like what you must do must honor and revere that tradition, thereby you're confined by your expression. So there's a kind of dilettantism, I think, that we're trying to encourage, but also a kind of reverence. What?
This is a hardcore show.
Exactly. So you can have a lot of technical ability on the guitar or not. And that's the beauty of what we're trying to create, I think. We're trying to create a space in which when you want the resources, they're there for you, but you never feel like you ought to want them. And you're never judged for not wanting them. And you're never told that this is how something should look. I think because of that, Tantra is so diverse, it's so rich as a tradition, that it's easy to be misunderstood, misrepresented, and misapplied. So when there's not this understanding of exactly what Tantra is, and for this understanding, you need a deep understanding of history. You have to be very well versed in the socio-economic changes in India. You have to understand what it was like to be in King Avantivarman's rule, and compare that to King Krishna Devaraya's rule, and see the influence of these socio-political factors on texts. If you're going to evaluate why this text looks the way it does, you have to consider these human factors, which people very seldom do. So they'll quote the Mahanirvana Tantra, but forget that there's like a politics around that text, an attempt to like leverage certain concepts and almost like appropriate certain concepts from other traditions as part of this scriptural, competitive environment. Like without understanding that context, you can think the Mahanirvana Tantra is something that it really isn't. And you can think the Kularnava Tantra is like an ancient Tantra, but then you realize it's quite modern actually. And understanding which Tantras appear in the 18th century and 19th century, and which ones appear in the 10th, 11th, and 12th century, might really change the way you approach that Tantra. But often we don't put in this academic work to like contextualize our Tantras. What's the rule? What king was there? What were the socio-economic conditions? What were the other schools of spiritual practice that were available to those people at that time? What was the dominant school of practice? And does this Tantra agree with it? Or does this Tantra debate against it? Like, obviously, everything is going to share DNA with everything else. So you can never understand any one thing in India without understanding every other thing around it, which is kind of a like intimidating task. It requires a lot of work, a lot of academic integrity.
There's a lot of history. There's a lot of history.
It's scary. Because like you're saying, look at Jimmy Page, like how much work he had to put in to understand classical music. He reads sheet music perfectly, and so he can go to the studio and you can just hand him sheet music, and he can immediately learn the song and he can record the song. Because he's put in that work, he's refined his guitar playing to the level where he can play in a technical sense really well. And that's our ideal. We want to get to a place where we can, on an intellectual level, be really technical with it. We want to like have a really hard geek boner. You know, we want to be able to like just geek out about all these like really nuanced and subtle things in the tantric world, because doing so will make you a responsible consumer of the tantra. So the first thing I want to say is that approaching the tantras with reverence requires approaching it with an understanding of Indian history. Who can deny the historical context matters? For example, if you want to study Rousseau, the Western philosopher Rousseau, it might be interesting to note that he grew up in like Switzerland, surrounded by like peaceful settings. So if you ask him, what is the natural state of humans prior to urbanization, when humans are out in the wild, what are they like? What do you think he's going to say?
Inherently good and peaceful.
Yeah, they're going to be like loving and peaceful because that's his experience. But Thomas Hobbes, he's in the English Civil War. Obviously he's going to have a more cynical outlook on human life. So his view is that axiomatically humans are nasty, like life is nasty, brutish and short. And we're like so mean to each other, and we need a state. We need the Leviathan, as it were, to keep our animal natures in check. Until like Ashley and Skylar come and tell the wild tiger to ride free. Until these kinds of like holy fools show up to your door with like clown sounds and great art to free you. But like Thomas Hobbes wouldn't like that. He wants state monopolized violence to protect each other from each other. Whereas John Rousseau would say, man is born free, is everywhere in chains. Swamiji would say, thine only is the hand that drags the chain, holds the rope that drags thee on. So all these concepts, all these ideas, necessarily, they're part of their time, you know? So Sri Ramakrishna gave a really beautiful metaphor about currency. Let's say you had a coin. It was a very beautiful coin, but it was from 5 kingdoms ago, or from 500, 600 years ago. Can you go to the store and buy like a Snickers bar with it? You know, you can't, because it's not part of this currency. In other words, it's a beautiful coin. It had currency. At one point in time, it was money. But just because that's true, doesn't make it money now. So what you find is like a lot of people in the tantric world are like collectors of old antique coins. And this gives them the sense that they are rich, but in truth they have no real value. They just have a dusty museum that gives them a sense of pride. And because they cannot transact in the world, having no real value, they stay in their museums and live and die there. And that's what happens with Tantra. We become classicist, we become very interested in antiquity, and then it becomes a tool, a scaffolding for a sense of superiority. And we say, look, we have all these nice coins, but who cares? They were only currency in their time. So Shamsha used to say this about previous avatars. They're great, their ideas are great, but their ideas, although somewhat consistent throughout all avatars, they're naturally going to be contextualized to their socioeconomic setting, the needs of the people of that culture. Like the Christ was a rabbi speaking to Jewish people. Obviously he would use terms that reference Jewish culture, which would be wholly lost on us. It's crazy that we read a Jewish book we never once consulted in its original Aramaic. We never once think about the cultural context those Aramaic words would have taken, and we just assume that our English understanding, doctored as it is by all these different traditions, is just what they felt about these things. You know, so the context is important, but also understanding when things are no longer relevant, that's important. And that's what context can help us with. We might take an idea and be like, this is just scripturally, axiomatically, like metaphysically true. And then later we find out that it just had something to do with the time period. Like it was culturally valuable at that time to do a thing a certain way. But it might not be now. So this willingness, I think, to discard the old and like embrace that which is practical in the old, I think is uniquely available to Americans. A lot of Indians can become overly attached to tradition, to culture, overly reverent. And the beauty of like a nation like America is that people are often in this liminality where they're not really Dutch and they're not really like African and they're not really any of those things they might have been before they moved to this country. And even if you're Native American, it's very different to be a Native American person now than back then. And so that liminality allows you to maybe have more creative control over which coins you think have currency and which coins you think don't. But to be able to make that discernment requires at least this, that you have some historical sense for like the progression of ideas. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you must have some access to the source literature, because if you don't get your own access, then other people will always be able to interpret those books for you, and they will then control that access. So what it means then to take back the levers of control is to ensure that you have access to those things that are typically gate-kept. And those are the tantras. All the mantras, all the pujas, all the yantras, and all the forms of ritual worship are all there in the tantras, right? So why then do you have to wait for somebody to give them to you, often at the price of your freedom or at least money, which is a symbol for your time and energy? Why do you have to wait for a person to do it when Shiva already did it and it's there in the text? See, Shiva is Guru, and he's the only Guru. And his Guru Vak is available to you now on a scale that was unprecedented. Like you can go on the internet, type in any Tantra, and probably it's going to be there for free on the internet. And what's even more exciting is you don't even need to have like a Sanskrit education now to be able to interact with it. Obviously, from a technical point of view, this would be preferable. If you had some familiarity with Sanskrit, you wouldn't have to rely on interpretations. And you'll notice, if you do a translation through ChatGPT or through some LLM, if you do it with a Sanskritist's LLM, it'll be a better translation. If you do it on just like your LLM having never learned Sanskrit, you won't know how to correct it when it makes mistakes. So like some Sanskrit education is going to help you even when you use the tools that we have today. But because of these tools, you can actually do this without any Sanskrit, language ability at all.
Can you explain that again?
Yeah, you can take a tantra, right? Like say it's online, it's digital. And a lot of times tantras are physical. You don't have a digital version of them. So people actually spend their entire academic careers acquiring physical manuscripts, taking pictures of the physical manuscripts, and writing complex computer programs. So it probably knows, like all the science people in the room probably understand this. I don't know how it works, but magically, they take a picture and then it digitizes. But that's really awesome because once it digitizes, you can now copy and paste and plug it into the ChatGPT or like the Gemini or the Claude, right? So the OCR is like a thing that takes manuscripts that are physical and renders them into the digital. But the problem is, you might get corruption. So the picture might be, and a lot of these texts are like corrupted. So just notice a lot of things that people say as like truth, they just assert. But when you look at the source of that truth, you find that it's just a corrupted text. A little ink that splashed a certain way and changed the whole meaning of a text, which could mean a world of difference actually. I'm just thinking of all these different words. I could give you examples of like words that a slight difference would make a huge change in meaning.
Give us an example.
I think one really funny one is the word shraddha, which means faith. Shraddha is a virtue in spiritual life. If you have faith, you'll make spiritual progress. So my ex-wife, we were in this like ashram and we're picking up books and she wanted to buy a book for my grandmother. So from across the bookshop, she asked me over her shoulder, what does Shraddha mean? I said, oh, it means faith. So she knows my grandmother is mostly like faith-oriented and likes to pray and she's more of a bhakti yogi type. So she buys that book and later gives it to my grandmother. My grandmother's in the passenger seat, I think my mom's driving the car, and me and my wife are in the back seat, ex-wife in the back seat, and we're driving. And all throughout this car ride back from this ashram, my grandmother, who's usually very lively and jovial and present, she becomes very morbid all of a sudden, talking about death and death rites. I'm like, oh my god, this is a bit weird. Is she like telling us that it's soon going to be time for us to think about funerals and whatnot? But then we noticed she was reading this book the whole time, and I look at the cover and it says not Shraddha, but Shraddha, which means funeral. So I bought my grandmother a book. So embarrassing. But it can mean all the difference, just one long vowel, just one short vowel. And if you have a text that's corrupted, where like you don't see the line over a word, it could change the meaning of the word. And Sanskrit is the kind of language where words are so multivalent that the context defines the meaning. So you can take the word yoga. Yoga will mean a different thing if you're talking about boats. There it means to tie a boat. If you're talking about astrology, yoga is the conjunct between planets. Like yoga can be used in Indian erotic art as like a term for sexual union. Yoga can be so many things. It can be used in grammar. Like yoga can be a conjunction. So the meaning of the word, even Kali can be used in so many different ways, secular and sacred. But the meaning of a word is dependent on its context. So do you see how this applies to the text? The meaning of the text depends on its context. We had in our last retreat a very interesting experience. And I think we're continuing to have very interesting experiences as we move forward. I'm going to say why, like our vision now, like our revolutionary spirit and the kind of manifesto that I think we're creating together will only make this sort of thing more likely, which is exciting to me. But last time, somebody came, and she was very triggered actually by this space. Of course, she was already in a very like enlivened state, but at a certain point, she just like kind of lost it and started calling it out as Satanism. You know, like some Judeo-Christian programming, some dualism kind of was triggered. She was like, and we of course took that as a compliment. Serious girl, like you get it. Like, but no, she meant it as like, this is wrong, this is bad, this is not Kali, and she wanted some apologetic version of Kali. That's fine, everyone's allowed to interpret things in their own way. The only problem is when you think your interpretation is the only way. And that's why it was kind of an edgy experience. Because we were like, yeah, Ma, that's fine, that's a very valid view of Kali. But also this works too. And she's like, no it doesn't. This is just Satanism. But didn't you notice the way she was using the word Kali and defining it? She kept defining it as just one thing. She said, but Kali means time. But Kali means time. She kept saying that. Did you notice this? Like there are certain languages where the meaning of the word is objective, inherent, and immovable. This word just means that.
A dark-skinned girl is called Kali.
Yeah, like maybe it's a form, like Kali is that person, it looks like that. At least she was able to say it was an abstract concept, but for her it was a singular concept. Like it was just time. Haven't you heard this? Kali means time, or Kali means darkness. But Sanskrit doesn't work like that. Every word has a dhatu, a root, and that root has up to sometimes 6, 12 meanings. The word yoga, like the root yuj, can be use in the English language, use. Like yoke. Let's say yoke, but I think yoke is not my favorite root. My favorite root understanding of yoga, yuj, is use. The same in English. Yoga is that thing which has a use. Yuj. Isn't that cute? But notice, if Kali has more than one meaning, then you can be flexible about understanding Kali. So you can say, Kali, the word Kali means Shepo, Jnanam, Sankyam, Gatinada, Krama, Kalanam, Kali, Kala, Sankarshini, Iti Abhidhiyate. Now, if we were translating texts, and you saw the word Kali, there are all these meanings available to you. But the way you choose the meaning, and this is what gives the text great interpretive, this is what gives interpreters great interpretive license. Let's put it this way. Because there are all these options, like when you're painting, I'm sure, like when you're playing music, like there's infinite choices you can make with every single moment. And I hope you understand that like translating Sanskrit text is like painting, or like playing music. It's actually an incredibly subjective endeavor. And if you bring in a sort of Western objective materialist reductionist view, like that friend of ours did, you'll get that view of like rigid, I'm right and you're wrong. But the Sanskrit language grammatically protects itself from such nonsense by being more of an art, more of a subjective interpretive experience than an objective definition. So the problem with the Tantric world is we don't understand this, and because we don't have grammar, we don't have basic Sanskrit grammar, we don't understand dhatus, that's why we become susceptible to people who say this is what it means. We can't challenge them. And often we find that if we just put a little pressure on their views, the whole thing collapses because they don't know either. The marketplace of ideas in Tantra becomes who can assert their view with the most bimbodance. And they know they won't be asked about it because we don't have the ability to hold them accountable. So at the very least, You should be able to say in response to somebody who says, Kali means time. You should be able to say, well, we get our meaning of words from Panini's Ashtadhyayi among other texts. And there we see, Kali is defined as Kshepo Jnanam Sankyam Gatinada Kramat. And you should know this, you should memorize this. So if you were learning Tantra traditionally, you would by now be required as students to memorize all the meanings of the word Kali, which would empower you then to understand how an author is moving the text according to their agenda. It protects you, frees you from being beholden to other people's interpretations. It allows you to have your own. So Kshepo means that which throws out. So to say Kali is a destroyer is in one sense not complete enough. Because in her meaning, the word Kali is included the idea of throwing out, Kshepo. But notice, throwing out, like Tyaktva, Shipet, like these words imply not blooming or opening, but kind of forcefully. Like Kali is like a fierce and a forceful and unimpeded energy. There's a flavor to the word throw out, kind of like Pollock art, isn't it? Like, it's kind of like a...
Crack that whip.
Yeah, crack it, almost a spontaneity. So notice how this matches what we were talking about in Tessa's house. There, like the punk ethos says, make it quick, make it fast, put it out. You don't edit it too much, you don't refine it too much. In the sense in which Kali is kind of unrefined or artless in this inspired way, where she has so much to make that she doesn't really take too much time to make any one thing.
She's delightfully crafty.
Yeah, she puts it out.
She's a lightning strike.
Yeah, and then the word Jnana means, but at the same time, she's able to cognize it. So she puts it out, but it's still something that she can hold as a cognition. So it's not careless, it's just inspired. So it's still precise, right? And it's not messy, it's defined. Because the next word then becomes Sankhya. Notice I'm using an art theory to explain all of these grammatical terms. To make something quickly, and yet to make it something articulate, and yet to make it rich and diverse internally. Shepo, Jnanam, Sankhya. Gati, movement, dynamic. The artwork can be rich and varied and dynamic. Gati nada, it can vibrate. It should have a sort of synesthetic musical quality, Gati nada. And then Kamath, it can be understood in a sequence, either as an involution or an evolution. It's something that can be, this is where you get the idea of time. The word Kramath is the same as the word Kali in the sense of time. So when she was saying Kali is time, she's saying just one of these many explanations. And Kalanam, which is going to be very important for us, means to imagine, to visualize, to allow your creativity to like create, maintain, destroy, to involve and to evolve. This is Kalanam. And that is called Kali. Abhiti means definition. The definition of Kali is that which throws out, that which cognizes, that which matrifies or diversifies or distinguishes, that which moves, that which resonates, that which is time or which is sequence, that which is imaginative power, and that which is the destroyer or the devourer.
So she's also the creative.
Exactly. So if you say, oh, Saraswati creates, it's like, no, you're not like thinking about the root of the word Kali, Kal, which means Kalpana, to imagine the world as the visualization or imagination of Shiva. That's Kali who does this. And basic grammar will save you from this mischief making on the internet where like Saraswati is different from Kali, this is a $2,000 workshop, and this is a $2,000 workshop. That's like a music business defining genres in order to sell records. So the whole genre concept is like a marketing gimmick, as it were. And you don't have to buy into that, because the idea of buying into a genre or into the idea of I'm this worshipper, I'm that worshipper, I'm this tradition, like it like limits you more than the word Kali is like willing to do. So there's like basic grammar, like inquiring into history, into socioeconomic factors, inquiring into grammatical considerations. These things are called classical traditionalist approaches. And we tend to be very fond of them. In our classes, we tend to be very close to Sanskrit primary sources. We try to like encourage Sanskrit literacy so that you can access primary sources and come to your own understandings about them. And if you can do this is what's exciting. You have all the mantras and all the mandalas and all the ritual manuals and all the yantras and basically all the tools you would ever need to do your own tantric practice. And in this way, never really need to get it from anybody. And this brings up a very challenging question. What about Diksha? What about initiation? What about the role of the human guru, the human mentor? Is there value to that? And that's why in this like kind of opportunity that we have over the next 4 or 5 days, I want to suggest some edgy ideas. I want to say things that I think will piss people off. Because I think I'm right. I think that's why it pisses them off. Because I think we're right. I think the role of the guru is a thing of the past, because the way that we've understood the guru in our individuated consumer culturist environment is not really the way they would have understood the guru. And we project our understanding of the guru, which is often a cult of personality oriented around a certain individual who wields power in a hierarchical institution, that we project into the past and we say that's what the guru was. But probably not, because the very texts about the guru don't ever define the guru that way. Brahmanandam, Paramasukadam, Kevalam, Jnanam, Murtim. The Guru is what happens, as the Christ said, when two or more are gathered in my name. And the Guru is what happens when we get together. The Guru is what happens when we spontaneously channel, and that could happen for anyone at any time. The Guru is what happens when you look at Ashley Ma's art, or when you hear someone cooking and you smell like. The Guru is like an energy, as we learn in the Kaula Sutra. It's an unbroken avachana transmission, a Maharishi array that flows through a lineage. And that one Guru, it says Evaiko Guru, there's only one guy who's the Guru. And not even a guy, it's Shakti, it's a woman. And it's not even a woman, it's a formless presence, a spirit that just flows like electricity flows through a wire. Yet then we say the wire is the Guru. And who's your Guru? Who's your daddy? Like that's like all it ever is. Like poor Bringideva, he brings one tray of flowers to the puja kitchen, puts it on reels on Instagram, and all these Indian babas feeling FOMO like, who's your Guru, who's your Guru? Who fucking cares, bro? Why do you care what balding, skinny, perverted brown man is taking my money? You focus on your bald, skinny, perverted brown man. You know, like, why are you talking about mine? Like, that's not weird. That's even more perverted than my perverted brown man. You know, and diddles me in the name of spirituality. That's what why do you think you need someone to give you permission? That's what the world of Tantra on the internet looks like. It will say to you, you don't have permission to chant this mantra. Says who? Says you're a skinny, perverted bald guy? Well, I am my own skinny, perverted bald guy, and I say I can do what I want. That's what the punks did. Like, they were told by the music companies that they were not allowed to make their own records, but they did. They did. And the beauty of it is that they didn't rely on the means that the music companies relied on to sell those records. They just sold them out of the back of their trucks. And it worked, right? So I think the project of punk in the United States and in the Europe and like everywhere that you see punk movements, I think should inspire us. Why can't we just do that?
There's a punk movement right now in India.
Yeah, exactly. In Assam, you have the heavy metal movement, like the psytrance scene. I mean, politics aside.
Yeah.
IDF aside.
It's
like,
because of politics.
Yeah, I mean, like IDF stuff and like Goa is very.
Yeah.
All that aside, Goa is really cool. Like Goa Girl moving among sadhus and like the revolution of electronic music in a place that was mostly instrumental music. But thinking about this is interesting because we see models where individuals did it their way, decentered the levers of authority, became themselves levers of authority, and like found different guerrilla methods of doing what they wanted to, and that's what we're doing. You know, we're not charging a fee to come to this retreat because in one sense we don't need to be in that economic model. We actually love each other and we support each other and we each have something to contribute that we freely want to contribute without being made to contribute it as a condition for your participation. And that means that somebody who maybe cannot contribute a certain amount can be compensated by someone who can, but that person can cook a meal. You know, it's like a different kind of mutual aid sharing economy. And therefore when that exists, that allows for a different model which we're trying to create for ourselves. And it will look different from community to community. But that freedom and that flexibility to do it your way is something you'll see as not really available to many people on the internet because of this view that to practice Tantra, you need somebody's permission. I don't want to challenge that. Why? Prove it. And if you point to text and you're like, oh, because this text said that, it's not enough. It's not enough to just pull a Sanskrit phrase out of a text. Most people don't even do this. They just assert very loudly in a comment like what they think is true, and then they expect that to be all the justification they need. But when they take the time, which is very rare, to cite a text, notice how under nuanced that citation is. First of all, what time period is this text from? Second of all, what were the socioeconomic factors that influenced this text to say what it said? Third of all, what's the context in which this thing is being said? Because people often will cherry pick a text to support their own agenda, but not take into consideration the context in which that thing is said, which could change everything. Like, blood is thicker than water. That's half the quote, right?
Yeah.
It's a wrong quote. It's like blood of the covenant is thicker than the water and womb. But that's how citations sound like to me, in the way that the Tantric communities talk about knowledge. Even the Ramakrishna communities, just grab random parts of Vivekananda, random parts of Ramakrishna. They don't even think to whom Ramakrishna is saying this. What are the socioeconomic cultural factors that would inspire Ramakrishna to say this? And more importantly, what are the personal life factors of his student that would require this teaching, which might be very different from your personal life factors. So why do you think what Ramakrishna is saying to Vivekananda is what he's saying to you? Because you've been thinking about what he's saying to Vivekananda, which could be helpful. You're maybe not listening to what he's saying to you. Do you know? The idea of citing tantras is not so simple. It requires a lot of technical ability. And if you don't have that technical ability, I'm telling you, most of the people in the tantric world don't have it. But we think they do. And when you don't have that technical ability, the moment we ask someone to justify their view, they just can't. They don't have the know-how to do so. They don't have the grammar to do so. They don't have the energy to do so. And I'm sick of this. I'm sick of lethargic, intellectually weak,
morally degenerate old men telling us what we can or cannot do, who can practice and who cannot practice, what deities you're allowed to worship and what deities you're not allowed to worship. Not one stone will be left upon this building called Tantric gatekeeping. You're Americans. You know what it is to storm the citadel and kick out a government that tells you who gets to own what. You worship a warlord, George Washington. Isn't it time to take back what's yours? Isn't it time to stop being bullied? Not just by Indians, but most importantly by other white people who are let in by the Indians. I think they're the ones that do the most damage. It's often people who are compensating for being in the out group that tend to be the most vicious towards their own kind, who they feel like they don't want to have. I want to be the special white person in the room that's more Indian because Baba became me about that. Now I'm so Indian because I did my 500-hour teacher training in Rishikesh, which is basically fucking Santa Monica. But I'm more Indian, and so when you come, when Jeff comes, Sean's gonna feel like, fuck, well, now Jeff's here, and so he's gonna be mean to Jeff actually. Yeah. And he's gonna say like, oh well, Hindi bole? Kya jam hai? He's gonna do things that make him feel like part of an in-group, and Jeff part of, who's it, Sean? I don't know. I'm mixing all the white people up, they all look the same. He's gonna make it feel like that person is excluded. That's what I think people on the internet like to do. They like to say, if you pay this money, or if you're part of this group, then you're in the in-group. And we just don't need to allow them to get away with that. I think it's fair and fine for you to fuck around and find out. And that's the thing I tend to get a lot of backlash on. And often people say it's because we're being irresponsible. Fuck it, I'd rather be reckless and irresponsible and free and make my own mistakes and learn by my own experiments than be careful and considerate and become a pawn for this consumerist agenda. Because it's always about money, it's always about servitude, it's always about hierarchies. It's better to reign in hell than to serve in heaven. And that's a valid view, and you might not agree with it, but that's your problem. Because we're going to do our thing over here. And that's the idea. We have that right. And that's why I think Swamiji really loved Americans, because he knew that Americans were deeply, deeply aware of what rights were theirs. They'll plead the fifth, because they know that they have the right to do so. Sometimes people, when they don't know what they're entitled to, they don't know how to invoke it and use it. But Americans have always had this sense of, well, not on my land, I've got a gun. I can't tell that I'm not going to let a US government become another British. So that's all of us have our own right to rebel. The Second Amendment doesn't have to look like gun ownership. It can look like this. So what I'm doing in one sense is handing out guns. And people don't like that. Because they want a police state that tells you only certain people can have guns. The monopoly of violence, as it were, to use this metaphor. Fuck that. I want my own communities, my own guns, my own right to govern. And see, I'm being American South, right? I'm channeling a bit of that wild West Tantra, In one sense, I think that's what makes America so great. As an economic powerhouse, in its musical genres, they've never been afraid to innovate. They bring in new instrumentation, they bring in new genres, because they just won't be told no. What?
Steal some stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's not stolen because Lord Shivji, in his infinite compassion, has given it, right? My problem is when Lord Shiva is the guru, why do we come in and say, you can do this and you can't do that? Because Lord Shiva presented the whole thing. And if you say oh, Lord Shiva said you can do this and you can't do that, well, again, I don't think a lot of people are up to that task. Because you could say, if you read a 18th century, 19th century Bengali Tantra, you'll see that when the Tantric master who writes the Tantra presents an idea, he will cite many different Tantric sources and make a sort of lawyer's argument. So you might ask, what's the best time to worship Kali? And notice I like to sleep during the day, so when we got in I was sleeping. Now you guys are sleeping. Why? Because we're training to worship Kali at a certain time. You might say, why that time? Tell me, explain why. 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. this is the window for Kali. And now the burden of proof is on the writer to explain why. And so you can cite a bunch of different tantras that say 10 p.m. to 3 p.m. And then you can cite some other tantras that say worshipping Kali in secret is very important. And we'll talk about why. And then you could say, well, that's why 10 p.m. to 3 p.m. 3 a.m., sorry. The reason why we worship Kali between 10 p.m. and 3 a.m. is because that's when everyone else is asleep. And so secrecy is the reason. And then you could say, if you can guarantee secrecy at any other time, it can be at another time. You see, you can check and balance what Shivji says in one tantra with what he says in the other tantra, never taking one to be axiomatically true and irrevocably true, because there's a deeper meaning that you can work out using your intellect. So that's the next point. Not only do we not have access to the information, whether it's grammar or history, or just tradition and culture and maybe even philosophical context, it's also the case that we tend not to have, I would say, intellectual refinement to work with those facts. So even if we had access to all the facts, we might not be able to see the connections between them. This is called reasoning. So being able to reason and being able to like compare and contrast and intuit, that's like a skill that we tend not to teach or develop.
Yep.
And so if you want to be a tantrika, not only do you have to be a textualist, a nerd with a very big geek boner, with lots of books, and that's more available to you now than at any other time because you don't have to be rich anymore to acquire text. You don't have to belong to a family and inherit text. You just go on the internet. That's so cool to me. So that's available to you. But secondly, this is the first time in human history where almost everyone in the world, not everyone, is obviously it's a privilege, but a lot of people can read and write. You know, that's like really rare. And a lot of people have opportunities to converse with other people and debate with them and have like challenge their views, and that will refine your intellect in a way that at any other time in history you might not have been given the opportunity to refine your intellect. So being intellectually refined, learning how to debate, learning how to think, that's going to make it more possible for individuals to seize control. So svadharma, you have to have access to text, and you have to have access to thinking to be able to work through text. The last thing, the most important thing, is you have to have access to mystical experience, and that's what's being gatekept. So there's a claim that Jesus had an experience, Paul had an experience, and you can't have that experience. For Tantras to work, there must be viable, practicable means for acquiring experience. You must be able to have for yourself that experience, and therefore, applying the practices must always take recourse to the extent to which it's producing change in your life. And that's the thing, a lot of people do rituals in an empty way because it's only important that they do the rituals. It's not important how the rituals make them feel. That's when we talk about jazz versus classical music, vibe coding. Like, it's more important that your ritual succeeds in creating the bar, and it's true that the more technical ability you have, maybe the more likely are you to like get the bob that you want. Sometimes you fuck around and find out like you can every now and then get the bob, but it's random. Whereas if you have technical ability, you might be able to control that a bit more and get more consistent results. So there's a case for learning technicality, but sometimes when you learn so much technicality, then it chokes out all the enlivenment, the life, the joy, and then you might inhibit your ability. What's that?
It becomes rote.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you see in India.
Yeah.
So in India, you see massive technical ability. People are born into traditional Brahmin families where from a very young age, they're taught Sanskrit grammar, like they know all the roots and they can, like Bhairavananda. See how technically brilliant he is? But he has something which so many Brahmins of his stature do not have. And that's what makes him uniquely part of this community, I would say. It's because he has this like American, and he was born in America, American sense of like individual pursuit. And he's basing his claims off of his own life and not what the people around him are saying, which a lot of Indians don't do. They like base their values on what they're told, not on what they experience. So they're told by their parents they ought to be accountants. And they're told by their parents that money will make them feel happy. And then they don't ever check in with themselves to see whether or not that's fucking true. Because a lot of times they'll find that what my father thinks will make me happy is not what I actually feel will make me happy. So then the only way you can decide what to do and what not to do is by checking in with what works and what doesn't with regards to your happiness.
Have you seen an Indian like bank commercial? It's literally just this hard-working man working so hard, and then it ends off, and it's supposed to be an emotional part where he's just sending like 2,000 rupees or something to their family in America.
Yeah, like remittances.
And that's supposed to be like a heartfelt thing.
and like that's the thing, if that person feels that to be true, wonderful. But if you're looking at the ad and you're like, okay, that person's experience is my experience, and that's the problem. So what happens in Tantra is we take other people's experiences more seriously than we take our own. But like forget that the metric that we all have access to is how this makes me feel. And that's how we do music too, right? Like it's like we have an aesthetic sense for like what feels good, and that's where we go. Like beauty, harmony, rhythm, these are all things that are intuitive based on my subjective experience, not based on an institution's formal understanding of those things. So the worst kinds of musicians have concepts around melody. Like a melody is a melody when it like looks like this, or a rhythm is a rhythm when you can count it out. But like some of the best musicians don't even know those concepts, they just feel things. But imagine now, if you could combine that American permission, just go with where your heart took you, just to go west because you wanted to, with that Indian acumen. That would be really cool if you had all the classical ability, but you were not confined by it. If you had all that like individual spirit to like pursue your own thing, and you had the tools for it, that would be really cool. So I think that as a manifesto is our community's ideal. To create as many resources as possible for people to refine their technical ability without ever pressuring them to do so. You know, which brings me to another point. You only need as much technical skill as you need. Like how much Sanskrit you need will be different from how much Sanskrit someone else needs, because you might both be aspiring towards a different outcome. Bob Dylan doesn't need Jimi Hendrix level blues scale knowledge. That's not what he wants to do. Like he just needs some cowboy chords, like they're the Cowboys, and that's enough. right? Like, and Jimi Hendrix doesn't need to have like, I don't know, some like hardcore like arpeggio sweeping sort of technical ability. He just needs to be able to play as fast as he needs to be able to play the kind of music he needs to play. So we're going to do puja, but we're all going to take turns doing puja, and each of us will do puja in a different way. It's going to feel kind of scary, and it's going to feel scary because we think there's like maybe a way to do it, and maybe we're afraid that our way is not the way. So like the thing about Hinduism is it's so full of rituals and traditions that you feel scared to do it your way, lest it violate a tradition. I think a certain level of sacrilege, a certain level of being okay with that would be nice. Right? Like I think it would be really uniquely cool if we could create an environment where there was maximal tradition and minimal sense of being beholden to that tradition. So we have those three things. With svadharma, if we can, as a community, make texts more available, and the work looks like maybe ourselves translating and putting out our translations. Mm-hmm. Maybe it looks like being more honest about our translations instead of just saying this is what it means. Maybe we could like diversify our translations by like walking people through our process, which is how I like to teach the Vijnana Vairava class. I just want to translate the text. I want to do like a Subway sandwich version of that, where like we go through how we translate. Like, oh, this shipe means one should throw, you know, this ending et, like that. We're doing this, I thought, more transparent approach. And so things like that, like if you're inspired to be part of this movement, and it's not a community, it's not a brand, it's not an organization, I think it's a principle, it's a movement. I think the first task for us as part of this revolution is to radically make the resources of Tantra, the textual tradition, as mass distributed as possible. People should have Tantras in front of them, and they should be reminded that those Tantras are where all the mantras come from. All the yantras, all the pujas. And so Shiva is the guru, and his guru Vaks is recording the Tantras. So everyone should have access to it. So if you're inspired, maybe your work now is to acquire Tantras, use the OCR, and put it on the internet. Like that could be it. Your whole job could just be digitizing manuscripts. Somebody has to do it, and somebody is doing it. Mm-hmm. Somebody's entire academic life is acquiring manuscripts, digitizing it, and maybe also editing to make sure that it's like digitized well. And this is a good job for like computer programmers because there are like different programs that you can use to have more accurate digitizing. That's one task. The second task could be to translate or to transliterate. I think even that transliteration itself is cool, and the ChatGPT can handle this pretty well. Just like run any Devanagari or any kind of script into ChatGPT and ask it to transliterate, and then you'll be able to read it and sound out the words without needing to learn the script. You know, and this is important because when you chant, you want to be able to like enter into the resonances of the mantra. And so the next thing you might want to be able to do is understand IAST, like the standard way of reading things. You should know a long A looks like this, a short A looks like this, the dot under the N makes it this sound, a dot above the M makes it that sound. A lot of people say Harim Kali. Say there's a mantra, right? The bija, Harim. How do you pronounce that? In a sense, it would be Haring Kali. Haring Kali, because the rule here is the ang sound will transform based on what comes after. So pancha, the pang, and the cha makes it a punch, like a pancha. Like the sounds change when you understand grammar. So learning the squiggle lines and the long lines and the dot, these are all things that will empower you to learn your own pronunciations. So again, you decenter the role of an individual who sits there with you and teaches you how to pronounce it. Because often those people don't even know transliteration and they're not using IAST, and you get this variation that then creates idiosyncrasies that move you away from your own ability. You see, so like if you have idiosyncratic ways of pronouncing mantras, that kind of binds you to that tradition. Whereas if we all can agree upon an IAST, you see how like, there's a Marxist theme here? If we all have the same understanding, then we actually are empowered to be individuals. So understanding IAST. The next task is of course translation. And that's where like the most important work happens. This could change an person's entire life, how you choose to interpret it. So you do that as another job, translation. That's the first front. The second front is we could teach like education around reasoning and empowering people to like think about the text and critically debate the text. So here we are countering the religious attitude of blind deference to authority. If somebody says something, they should be able to justify it. It's not true just because they're in a position of authority. That's like ad hominem, right? The idea that an argument is wrong because the person sucks, or the argument is right because the person is good. That's not good enough. Like ideally the person's life is an example, but that isn't good enough to prove the argument. Maybe their life is just good. It's incidentally the case that their argument is the way that it is. I don't know that their argument is why their life is good. Maybe they're just like happy people. You see? The argument must be inherently good. And I think we should pressure our religious teachers to justify the things you're saying. If you go on the internet, what you find is an unregulated, unsubstantiated like marketplace of claims. And we're not like pushing back on those things. That's the second thing. And the final thing is to just trust our own experience and to use our own lives as a guide for sadhana. In this sense, all we have to do is present the tools and empower people to take what they want and leave out what they don't want. And more importantly, empower people to do it in their way. That's why, in closing, I just want to introduce you to Skylar and Ashley. I'm so happy you guys are here because I think you guys are like my favorite examples on the internet now for like exactly this that I'm describing. Because they just don't give a fuck, and they're so intelligent that you might even not understand how fucking sophisticated some of the things they're doing. It's like I was joking with Ashley Mon, I said one of these days, in Sanskrit Anushtup meter, in the most classical and refined of forms, I'm going to do an exegesis on one of your works, just to show you like how much like metaphysical depth there is. Like you're thinking about these things, but so deeply that it's like impulsive, spontaneous, and like it's all performance art, and that's like really exciting to see because you're not confining yourself to the forms that came before. You're expressing your creativity, and yet here you are, like a sponge, absorbing all of these forms. And like I'm gonna post a picture rather than bring the computer over there. You can see like how many of these artworks reference things that came before, and yet have things that are wholly new, like this Skylar demon character. Like these things are new images, but they're plastic in that they refer to old images. So there's something about like this newness. It's called nava, this freshness, this edge, this anta that like is uniquely Kali, because she's uniquely pushing the edge, pushing the envelope. Like she's dynamic like that, you know. So the problem with Tantra is that it's often representing a goddess of dynamism, but is itself stagnant? Is itself resistant to change? So what's wrong with doing a puja in English? What's wrong with doing a puja in Mandarin? Somebody will say, no, puja must be in Sanskrit. Well, says who? And if they're saying it, maybe it's because that's true in their experience. But in my experience, when I do a puja in English, maybe it's better actually. So being able to like do that is an important thing, and having people like, you know, these crazy liminal beings that like you can't even say what they do. Like look at them and like
On
what
that
the?
Florida Georgia line.
Yeah, like on that Florida Georgia line. Geographically they're on the ley line of liminality, and like hopefully we'll get a chance to like attend.
I drove that and I got pulled over by a cop, so.
Just see them doing some zany, weird Dionysian performance art in the woods, like across from where you were talking to the cop, because they're probably in the.
We were the cup.
As a bit.
Thank you for not giving me that hard of a ticket.
You're welcome.
You're like Easy Rider is that. So that's cool. Like everyone in this room has something so unique to offer the tradition that you might think is maybe non-traditional to offer. That's why when we were doing the Vedanta routine, it was really important for me that Nilo plays music. Do you know what I mean? Because the last thing I fucking want is the same fucking kirtan that people have been doing for the last fucking 10 years, and you only do it because that's what we do. It's an awesome kirtan. It might be an awesome kirtan, but it's not your kirtan. You know? Like when people learn kirtans, they get a bit frustrated because I'm like, what are you doing? But just parroting back the words of your betters. That's what the Kularnava Tantra says in the beginning. Mainas, are they great scholars just because they can parrot back the words of their betters? That's what a lot of religion looks like. Like I said in my post, like we're LARPing, but we're LARPing somebody else's character from a different time, and that's a coin, however pretty, which has no currency in this day and age. Like you have different music than our ancestors. So why are we playing their music? Don't we have different cultural forces? We heard the motherfucking train. The British made us build railways. And so when we hear a harmonica, when we hear blues music, we resonate with our blues brothers, movies reference, to our like friends in America who are also experiencing very similar diasporic experiences whose music references the train. Our ancestors didn't have the sound of the train the way we do. Shouldn't our music have a different sound to it? We have blues, we have rock and roll, we have some things. Now, I think the Bowels invented rock and roll or whatever. Or like cavemen with your rocks. I don't know, but the point is, Nilo's music is of this time. Actually, Nilo's music is especially fucking of this time. It's like really like eccentric. It's like different. Tunings are weird. They're Nilo. Like what genre is it? What can Interscope or Capitol Records say about it? They'll just put it in alternative. Or like, I don't know, indie or something. Indie's such a weird genre. Independent, but no, you owe a contract to the company. But like, it's just so cool. Like, just have in a temple things that you don't typically have in a temple. That's why I like writing kirtan. Like, I like doing Namah Shivaya my way. I like having my own chords for it. And that's what we've always encouraged. Like in our community, we're saying, write your own kirtan, sing it your way, because if you're learning it, it won't sound as good because that's the way it sounds for them. It's good for them. But if you learn like your way or write your own thing, you'll write it based on what you can do. You know? So I think we want to encourage in this space art making, And we want to encourage in the space the willingness to step away from old forms and embrace those forms that we might consider non-traditional, which actually might have a better chance at expressing the Baba uniquely because they're of our time. So we need Tantras of our time. So when you hear Viranatha's like theater, like play, and I'm hoping can we close with that?
No.
Like some, okay. Tomorrow, and then we'll have like I was hoping for like an acting out of that. But like when you hear that, you're like, this is refreshingly modern, and yet inclusive of old ideas. So for Tantra to be punk, I think the last thing to say here is that not only must we own the resources, not only must we now work really hard to mass redistribute the resources, which are usually withheld from people and jealously guarded by small groups of elites, we must also empower people and inspire people to pursue those resources. And the final thing, the main thing, which I want this retreat to be all about, and this is like, I think, kind of like the last lecture piece that I want to do. I just like, usually we'll just lecture for 8-9 hours, we'll have Q&A, but I just want to do something different this time. And instead of doing this, and this kind of like lecturing things, listening things, the last piece for this lecture, and I think the opening for like the project that we have for the next 4 or so days, however long we want to be here, is this art making. Because the thing that makes punk is not only are the materials available to everyone, guitars are more available to everyone than any other time, but also people are more like punkish and rebellious and willing to use those materials, but they're also inspired to participate in a community that creates and contributes. So in Tantra, we have certain people who produce, and we just give them all our money. And I'm saying like now we should produce. Like when Ashley Ma is making art, when Skylargy is like putting out content or doing skits, like when Sonuma is writing, like when every one of you has, you know, you're teaching yoga, like these are all things that you're putting out, right? Like the ideal of the punk community is that everyone puts something out and creates an environment that's rich with content that then inspires more content. So the punk world is one of volume. Because it's one of like no pretense, no editing, you're Shepo Gyanam Sankyam Katinada, you're like kaliing it, you're vibe coding, you're just like allowing things to flow out of you and moving to the next thing without getting fixated on the first thing. Like that means you should have a space which is saturated with content. So I was thinking like as a retreat, we should just art make. You know, we should spend the time like in this like startup vibe where each and every one of us is making our own art. And I wanted to close by asking you like, what can you, as it were, pledge in the puja? Like as opposed to just doing pujas, which we'll also do. And you're just like, sitting there watching us do puja. It's like, let's all do a puja together and let's like do a sankalpa. Let's offer Ma something. Let's all of us have something tangible that we can show Ma, that we can bring into the world by the end of the retreat. You know, so for instance, I think I want to finish that panati. I want to make sure the transliterations are all done and the translations are all done, and by the end of this retreat, by Monday 10 a.m., I should be able to show you a fully manifest, fully articulated, not to say it won't be edited, like, but like something that like I can present to you as an offering. So like at the end of the retreat, you should all be able to go away with a PDF or a physical version of the Paditi, which means ritual manual. And that's the project that I want to finish while I'm here, and like Viranatha will put out a poetry book, for instance, or someone will write a song, whatever it might be, and it could be ambitious. You could be like, I want to do this much, or it could be simple. But like I'm thinking, what concrete offering, what prana, what blood will you give to Mother Kali? And I'm saying the best symbol for that prana, for that blood, is some creative project that you uniquely can make, that Kali makes through you in a way that she cannot make through anyone else, given your own unique past, your own unique future. That's the kind of tantric revolution I was thinking we could, you know, usher. So it's like, for fun, collect sankalpas, collect heads for Mundamala. What are you giving? What are you pledging? $5, $10. What art will you pay Kali, who is the source of all creativity? And like you're saying it in front of Kali. So you're like, fuck, like by Monday, 10 a.m., I better fucking have this for her. Do you know? It's like, what do you think?
I think putting a demand on a desire distinguishes it. Like,
Yeah.
extinguishes it. Like, just fucking makes me not want to do it.
Yeah, it could be that too. I think it's like, but I think like, here's my project. Right? My project is, I'm going to demand. Yes, I'm going to demand Kali because I'm saying it's punk.
I think demand extinguishes desire.
Yes, because demand is trying to force something that isn't the case. Like I don't feel desire and I'm demanding desire, right? Like the levers of authority in the ancient music world would give resources, would give inspiration. God gives. I'm saying be punk. Take from God.
Where does that demand come from? Does it come from someone else or
External.
yourself?
That's what I'm saying. It's an external thing that you're placing.
Yes, and I'm arguing that the very nature of reality is to be constantly creating each moment. I'm going to make a metaphysical argument. In fact, this means we should do more lecturing. And then I can give you a metaphysical basis using textual support to show you that your very nature is inherently creative, maximally creative, and voluminously creative. So if you aren't in each and every moment as a unique instantiation of this reality, creating, then you're not fully tapped into the nature of reality, given that our definition of nature of reality is concentration. You know, so if you're not constantly flowing with art, if art is not coming out of you every single moment, must be there's something blocking, some sankocha that's preventing you from creating. In other words, why isn't there a continuous, spontaneous stream of creation that flows into existence, contributing to the puja? And why is it that like this depends on some instantaneous moment that comes every now and then only? Are you not reality? If this is the case, you know what reality would look like? Now you're seeing it, now you don't. And then it comes back. And you can make an argument for that. You can say when you go to sleep, there's going to be like a state of silence. And so you could justify the position that there are periods when we rest and we don't create. Right? You can make an argument like that. I could defend that position and say, well, it's not true that reality is always continuously, spontaneously manifesting in each and every moment, because there are times when there's pralaya. Can't we allow for that? Like, can't we just not make anything in these 4 days? Wouldn't that be like pralaya? I think that's fair. I think you could make a case for that. I could, yeah.
I think we
That's what I was thinking.
also,
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say we can't burn it down too? Like, what if we make a
That's what I'm
little
saying.
art project and then we light it on fire?
Like a wicker man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there's a rasa. There's a rasa of
That's what
nature.
I've done to almost all my writing and my painting. I literally fucking burn it.
Yeah. And that's valid, right? That's valid.
That's good though. I mean, yeah.
What if all you're doing is creating fuel for the fire that Mao wants to like sweep across the world and like destroy everything?
I'll burn a painting with you. You want to paint something and burn it? I'll go
Yeah.
with you.
Hell yeah.
It's like rasa of just like, I'm going to do something hard. That's also valuable, right? But like notice how we're redefining tapasya. Like we're still introducing tapasya. We're saying it's not quite as sahaja as we could make it. Like the sahaja, the natural approach would be, I will make when I feel inspired to make, and that's not on my time. That's like Ma's schedule. And she wants to make something through me, she'll pick me up as a paintbrush, right? And we say that's cool and all, but and maybe it feels like on the contrary, it feels kind of like forced, like kind of ascetic to do something that I don't feel like doing. Our claim here is that we're moving asceticism away from spiritual practices and bringing them to the secular world by like saying, let's go, let's like collectivize, and let's remember that it's not about us and our like ability to express, although I will make an argument that's your inherent nature, but it's about our contribution, which is needed by someone else. So like your inspiration is ideally going to come when someone in the world needs what that inspiration creates, right? Now, that means anytime you're inspired, there's a need. If you follow that inspiration, that need will be met. Only when that need is met can that inspiration be considered to be part of the chakra. I was also debating having like a Sri Vidya intensive, because we could be so nerdy, we could like go into all the chakras and talk about all the deities and stuff, but I just like feel like I want more of an application, but hopefully those of you who are here have been studying this for so long anyway, that you can see where we're going with this. Like you could probably understand why the practice is the way that it is with recourse to the metaphysics that you've learned. Like Tantra is about dynamism. Dynamism is not sporadic, it's constant, but the constant dynamism doesn't have to look like the same thing every time. So if you want to make your art project like, I will cook a meal, that's literally what a particular artist, Thai artist, did in MoMA, right? Like he just served people Thai food. So you'd be like, I will sleep for 4 days, but as art. You see what I mean? You're like, let's say,
I'll take a banana to the wall.
Yeah.
So how is art just not simultaneously happening all the time if we're following art?
Exactly. And that's the
I guess that's what I'm saying is that when you put this restriction on it, or expectation, you have to make something, then it takes away that natural flowing creativity.
I would argue the opposite.
I would.
And I know
I
people
also-
will feel different. I just
I see what you're saying too.
Yeah.
But I would also give credit to the opposite, where it's like you are pointing the finger and that finger is precise, and then you're telling it to do that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The idea that something could add or take away is what I want to challenge, right? Like I could just do this the way I've always done this, and it'll be awesome. Like I'll do a bunch of pujas, we'll do some kirtan that will be really great, I'll give some cool talks with ideas that would be really intellectually stimulating, and maybe I will do that, because probably I also want to make content. Do you know what I mean? So I'll probably like make content by giving talks that I don't expect any of you to listen to. I'm making content, not for any other reason than because it's my very nature to do so. And like I look at the lectures, I don't wait for inspiration before I give a lecture, right? I'm not like waiting around, like I'm just giving lectures all the fucking time. As a result, she has no choice. because she knows I'm gonna show up, so she better fucking be there because I'm gonna be, kind of thing, you know? And like that kind of idea of like, why am I waiting? And more importantly, maybe the idea is like, when I constantly work and it feels unnatural, I realize that doesn't actually impede me in any way. Nothing can add, nothing can take away. So I don't need to do this to be Kali, and doing this won't make me any less Kali. So you can play with both. You can say, I'm the kind of person who's obsessed with putting things out all the time. Maybe the cool like Tantra, like Kaula Marga Vipari thing of you're vegetarian, you eat the fish kind of thing. It's like maybe if you're the kind of person that like doesn't put out stuff all the time, this would be uniquely valuable. But the inverse would be true. If you're like me, and you're just like a workaholic or whatever, you're like, maybe I should fucking rest. Because that would be transgressive to me. I should see that as art. And that's what I'm doing. Like, I feel weird not lecturing for 12, 13 hours every day. It's like, I love to do that. It's my nature to do that. The way a flower blooms, I can just lecture, and like, I will be able to. But like, what if I didn't? What if instead we just hung out, turned this into a sort of startup space where everyone's like working on their own art or doing their own projects, and we had something to show for it at the end? Because that manifestation is what I want. I want the full Bhupura. Like, say, it's like something is being flown into existence, but it stops at Tattva 25. Then we wouldn't say it's a Kaula Marga. For it to be Kaula Marga, it must include all 36 tattvas. There must be some Melana, meaning in the densest, most physical part. And if the Maharata Manjari is a text we can use, you'll see there's often an emphasis on Gandha, fragrance, because fragrance is the ultimate earth tattva. So for something to be fully manifest, it must include all the tattvas, the transcendent and the immanent, which means the thing must be in the world. You know, like that's why I'm not settling for like an idea. And these are ideas. What I'm doing now can be considered ideas, but I want it to be in the world, so I want to be able to hand you a book. I want to hand you an idea concretized. I want to hand you a lecture, but like art, like as an artifact, as a digital artifact. Like standing in front of Ashley's painting, feeling them in this physical space. What would that look like in the digital space? But there should be an artifact that outlives me, or maybe that like extends from me. If it's in my mind and I'm expressing it now, that's cool. But imagine if I had a record play, what do you call it, tape recorder on, then it will have a futurity beyond me and a corporate reality beyond me. You see? Do you see how this is Kali? Expanding. So that's why I'm saying like art, but like as manifestation. So something should show for it. That's the one. But notice its value is not commercial or corporate. Its value is entirely in embodiment, in manifestation, and in uniqueness. That's the basically. You could have a spiritual teacher tell you do puja every day, right? I'll never do that. You could have a spiritual teacher tell you do this many rounds of your Purashana. I have sometimes done that, but like fuck it. Why don't you just do this instead? Because otherwise, you do what the fuck you want, and that'd be awesome. But like, if I'm gonna do my dharma and present some kind of sadhana, then this is the sadhana that I'm inspired now to like try to present in order to subvert our understanding of sadhana. Like this is my punk like reinterpretation of what sadhana looks like in the Kaula Marga. We can do a lecture on Vimarsha and dynamism and explain why art is probably the best means for this particular theology. But if that's going to be the new sadhana, then I should encourage it even when it feels unnatural and edgy. Which I think a lot of tantric rituals in the Kaula Marga should feel like. And then you could say the Sahaja stuff is nourished by the willingness to endure Dhyanika, Bhibatsa, Raudra, like all the edginess of the Kaula Marga you'll find in your art making. So why then learn complex Buddhas unless that's your form of art? So again, there's never any pressure. No Kaula Marga will ever say you have to do anything. It's an invitation. Always. So if you don't want to pledge art to Kali, then you've pledged that as your art to Kali, your defiance. And I'll always celebrate that.
You
but
know,
like
Miles
if you want,
Davis,
yeah.
he said that some of the most important notes he played were the one he didn't play. But it's all part of the ultimate experience of art.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what you're describing is the will towards immortality. Because if you're expressing something that is an artifact and you operate on a principle of as above, so below, then that thing goes beyond your food sheet. And you're mythologizing yourself. You self-deified at that point that you become a craftsman.
Yes, you projected. You've done what Kali does. Emanate, shape all. You've cognized. Jnanam. See, jnanam means to cognize, means to define. And that's why like this like idea, like a plan, like I'm gonna have a Patreon with like videos. That's not yet jnana. Jnana Shakti means taking the mass of consciousness and like you said, making a corporeality of it and expanding and extending that corporeality forward. See, Kali is always stepping forward. My point here is that like we do Tantra, but we're doing Tantra by stepping back or by standing still. I want to do Tantra by stepping forward. And what that looks like in this exact way is pursuit of immortality, from immortality, as verb immortalizing, I think. And that means like corporeality, so jnana. Then Sankhya means it should be discernible, like what Kuleshwari makes should be discernible from what Nilo makes. Because otherwise, why would we all be here, like some 15 or so in this room? Aren't we all different in one sense? Why would Kali need such diversification if not to diversify? Like, why would you need Ashley when you have Rembrandt? You have an artist there, why have another artist here? Because Rembrandt would never make what Ashley makes. And like Ashley doesn't make what Rembrandt makes. I don't see a Dutch man with a tilted hat yet. But that's the cool thing. That means like every one of you here should be able to jnana, concretize something that extends beyond you. Shepo jnanam, and it should be distinguished. It should be unique. Shepo jnanam, sankhya. It should be dynamic, gati, nada. It should resonate. These are harder to justify. They have to do with, I think, a kind of bhava. Like there should be a aliveness to it, which I think you're trying to capture. Like when you're in the room with an artwork, the gati nada, the vibrance and the resonance of it, like hits different, I think, than when it's presented in a flattened, two-dimensional way. And I think when people make art immersive, they're trying to capture more of this gati nada, dynamism in art. And then maybe it's like a sequence. Maybe there's like in the 4 days that we're going to have together, there's a process by which you do this art making. So like notice, I'm using the definition of Kali to describe an art making process, and you see it's based in the grammar, it's based on metaphysics, it's based on theology, and therefore I'm presenting it as a sadhana. And wondering if that maybe it could be a sankalpa. And it doesn't have to be tonight, but like you can reflect upon like what and it doesn't even have to be expressed, and it doesn't even have to be shown. That's I think the cool thing. Like it doesn't have to, sadhana doesn't need to be a social act, but the Kaula Marga, what's unique about it is that it thrives in socializing and making communal art, which I think is the kind of Marxist thing, where it's like we're here for each other. And so if I have something in me and I'm not willing to contribute it, to what extent are we a community or family? Because I'm beholden to your needs, and if you need to learn something and I have something to express and say and I keep quiet, what a travesty. Because it was for you that I'm speaking, and now I think it's for me that I'm expressing. I'm saying flip that, like art as service. And so therefore the puja idea becomes important. So instead of serving Ma, Swamiji recommends that we serve each other, see Ma in each other. And that's what we do when we make art. We consume, when we offer flowers to Ma, ideally we appreciate the beauty of that. But like, wouldn't it be better to create songs for the Sangha? You know, the ability for a Sangha to sing a song together is, I think, inherently better as a worship than a Sangha all putting flowers at Kali's feet that we won't be able to enjoy quite as much as a meal or a song. This is Vivekananda's view that what Sonu does in the kitchen is more of a puja because it feeds Kali in a more real way than this archaic form of puja that might have aesthetic value, that might be uniquely ennobling, but that also might just be a coin in a museum that no longer has currency. It's only wearing a cowboy hat that I can say such wild things. I love this. Being like puja guy. You know what I mean? It's like maybe learning puja is not the puja that Kali needs now. Maybe Kali needs you to make your art. Because now she's bored of flowers. The word pushpa, push in flower comes from pushti. Pushti means nourishment. So to offer mother flowers, maybe we're fools to think flowers literally mean flowers. Flowers means fruits. But fruits are the result of the process called tree or plant. So if art is tree or plant, I'm saying be fruitful and multiply. But like, I'm not saying don't use condoms. I'm saying I can put a book on the table, you know what I mean? Be fruitful, like create something. You know, create something. And what will you create? What will we say when we get there? You'll know. Open your mouth and Lord will speak through you, kind of thing. But look what the Christ is saying. He's saying Christ as a human teacher is telling his people not to wait until they're inspired to go. He's telling them, go there, even when they don't feel like going there, and even when they don't know what to say. And then they ask, well, what will we say? Like, you're telling us to do something, but you're not telling us what to do. And then he's saying, well, just open your mouth, and you'll know. In other words, something must be done here to invoke something there. And on a mystical level, she's like promising this Ma that we'll invoke on Saturday. And possibly maybe this is something that happens after Saturday, even after that puja. But my feelings like, we're impatient. Like only our mother can be. We're on the edge and we want to push. And we're going to push. We're going to like go beyond. There's an edge. There's an edginess to it. And the threat is that it feels like something pressured, something externally imposed, something that's like a peer pressure, societal thing. It's like, no, the opposite. That we see Kali in each and every one of us, and we think, what can I make that would delight that person? And ideally, what I make that delights that person is what I'm delighted in making, and they usually go together. What I love to do is probably also going to be like someone like Soda's food tip, fucking hit. Like that first meal after a while, it's dude, it was so good. But you like to cook, I hope.
Yeah.
Right? So we wouldn't have Sonu build a shack outside. If someone loves to cook, that would be a travesty.
Mom, it was a beautiful fucking kitchen. That was that was the kitchen I was talking about.
I didn't think that walking into the room. I didn't walk into the room and look at the kitchen and say, wow, the kitchen is so beautiful. I didn't have that thought because I'm not the kind of person who will cook in the kitchen. You see what I mean? It's like, isn't it interesting? The things that you find beautiful in the world are also a clue to the kind of beauty that you can bring into the world. The parts of the house that you gravitate towards in this project of mine in the next few days is, I think, also a clue. Is this like stupid? Like,
No.
and I don't mind that it is,
No.
but I think like this is cool. Like, what?
Can I
Yeah,
I want
let's
to share
go.
I want to share my song called
Yeah.
both of them with the whole vibe of everyone hearing it. So if I don't do it, you guys can be like, what happened to that?
Yeah.
No, and I want you to do that. That's
Yeah.
important. There's two. One came to me here, like during this song. But the first one would be to somehow, in some way, explain that part of divination. Like that
Somehow,
is
in
intuitive.
some way, explain that part of divination that is intuitive. Like, what
Yes.
is intuition?
Yes.
And you'll give a lecture.
Yes.
Or like, you'll make a video.
I'm gonna make a really silly PowerPoint because I
Like,
like
yeah.
Hell yes.
Graphic
I
design
love
passion.
seeing
graphic
PowerPoint.
design is my passion.
Like,
Fuck
what will
yes.
happen is something
I
will
hype
happen
about
tomorrow.
this.
Yeah, right? Like, Janae, have you seen something like this before? Like a PowerPoint explaining in linguistic, intellectual concepts the mysterious processes of intuition?
No, I've just seen like really ridiculous PowerPoints people make about
Yeah.
like just dumb
Anything.
shit, and they're the best.
No,
They're amazing.
I know how I'm
They're
gonna
my
end
favorite
it.
thing.
The last slide's literally gonna be like, fuck it.
Yes,
the last slide's literally gonna be like,
yeah, like
fuck
that's
it.
the Bob that
In
we're
Comic
what we're
Sans.
going for. It's
In
great.
Comic Sans.
Do you feel that though? Like what happened in the room just now?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that aliveness?
Yeah.
You guys are riffing off each other. That's a fucking Tantra.
Yeah.
Like, the Tantra, this is my jazz period, guys. In terms of my career, I mean like my jazz. You know what Tantra is? A dialogue. Meaning it's not Shiva just teaching. It's Kali saying, I don't think that's the way. And then they have it, like it's a dialogue.
Yeah.
And like, you just feel how different the room is. It's like, otherwise you're just like, listening, I'm speaking. Sucks. But you guys are like playing off each other. And I think Shiva and Kali are like these guys, just like enabling one another to be crazier and crazier and crazier. It's like, do you remember that? How about it was this? Remember that? How about it was this? And like in every like corporate project that becomes a multi-billion-dollar like MNC, like it's just two guys in like a hotel room smoking weed and listening to Aerosmith doing this.
Yeah.
Frat broing each other into like better and better ideas.
And
look, they make so much money to become hegemonies in the world. Beat that yourself. Yes.
my second one is
fuck
more
yeah.
long term, and it's actually funny. You'll see the art. I have a friend named Maya, and she's currently making a zine about AI, and she's writing a lot of poetry around Bloody Mary, about how AI is this reflection of our own consciousness, and we're trapped, we've trapped this consciousness within a mirror, just like Bloody Mary's. Like,
Oh, fuck yeah.
yeah.
That's great.
So
That's
we're having this huge conversation about it, like now 4 days ago, and we're sitting there, and then we're at the pool, we're poolside, and then we end up going in the pool. And then for some, like, out of nowhere, the security guard comes out of nowhere and is like, someone pooped in the pool. And we're like, oh shit. We're having this deep conversation in the pool, we get out, right? The next day, we end up going to the park together, and we're just seeing a bunch of just horse shit everywhere. We're like, what the fuck? Like, it's like, this is shit again. Like, there's more crap. We're like,
This
"Bro."
shit again always?
Yeah, and then we end up going to a field, and we're seeing these, like, gopi cows. Like, they're just so beautiful cows. And then one of them just starts shitting, and we just look at each other like, and we're like, what does this mean? There's too much shit symbolism. There's something about poop, and then, like, the whole context of the conversation was before of how AI is affecting our consciousness, and like how like LLMs are part of that too, and like how it's affecting our own ability to like think, and how it's taking resources from the earth and everything. But then, and I also think it's funny that her name is Maya. But her name is Maya. She did religious studies, and she learned Sanskrit for 4 years. So she's kind of my Sanskrit source, like for things. And now he's pointing me in the right direction, as close as she can. And literally here, I was like, what if I just made my own Sanskrit LLM? Because you can make your own LLM and just train it in the way that.
You've talked to Anand, right? He's doing that.
Well, I want to make my own.
Yeah, right. And like then you guys come together, and it's like he's making his,
Yeah.
you're making yours, and they're going to be what is called jnana, distinct, and sankhya, discernible from one another.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. So that the whole symbolism of that, literally, I just texted her, and I was like, we're gonna make this LLM, and I figured out the poop symbolism. We're gonna find like the vomitara in the poop. Like the thing comes out of the transform that poop. Like that poopy stuff that we don't like about AI,
cool.
Like AI find benefit from it.
And I think Vama, it would be really nice to define Vama as mother, right? Like left or transgressive, but also as vomit. The English word vomit, the root for vomit in English is the same as Vama. And like I think there's a kind of vomit sort of aesthetic. They just like vomit it out. Let it be gross, let it be unrefined, but just put it out. Shape it, throw it out.
That was my puja.
Cool.
Good shit.
Good shit. That's the shit. Anything else before we wrap up? Like again, not speak now and forever hold your peace. Like
I'll give this a couple.
What you got?
I've been working on this sutra for a while, called the Agent Orange and Purple Sage Sutra.
Fuck yeah.
And it's about the revolutionary development of American Tantra through the beats and the influence of Chogyam Trungpa, and then how it transferred into the hippie movement and Timothy Leary, and then it became this punk thing and jazz and all of this. So I've been working on that for a while, and the tantric dialogue between the United States and Vietnam during the war. So I'll finish it while I'm here.
Fuck yeah.
That's so
and I'll read it
awesome.
to you all. It's not going to be too long, don't worry.
This sounds like a way better retreat, I think. Because like things will happen on this retreat that like have never happened before and will never happen again. And that will feel like the most decentered, most inclusive, and I think the most inspired and divine thing that could possibly happen. Because I want to sit and listen to this reading. And I love, you see Veera Bobby's like, I will do it. Like I will finish it by the end of these 4 days. I will fucking have the sutra and I'll read it to you.
Well, you challenged me to find a peak and climb the mountain, and that's what allows me to express a will to beauty.
Yeah, I love that. Good job. Wow. And then
we can all find our own peaks on the mountain and still be a part of a circle. Mm-hmm. And not one of us has to be a pyramid at the center. We can all have our own mountain to climb.
We can all use our own magic wands.
Thank you. Let's we all have our wands up, and let's be mountain range. Right? That's what I just see like such powerful individuals in a room and a social structure around Tantra that makes it about either one of these individuals at different times. Do you know, like, how can it be like at different times when you can all be at the same time? What's that? Oh, there's some. Oh yeah, you guys.
Kalidasi.
Like just like keep brainstorming it. Just like don't even worry about like, oh, we'll go in a circle or just like fucking just like go. You know.
Can
Kalidasi talk? Fucking go. Yeah, just like what is it? You just keep.
Go ahead, Mom.
What you got?
Oh, hold on.
Anyway, listen, you know me. I'm always going to be over here doing my own thing, right? I am not going to be following any rules. There'll be no deadline, but I produce out of my heart for every fucking day, and it is bliss. So this is a wonderful idea. Just keep sharing. I love you all.
I love you.
Love you, Mom.
So much.
Somebody said something. Was it somebody like yesterday? The whole day was puja.
Yeah.
We say like, and that's what Kalidasi just expresses. We should live in such a way, we were talking about earlier, that like every day we look back on yesterday and say, yesterday the whole day was puja.
Fuck yeah.
I think if you're in the studio and you're recording, doesn't it feel like that? I feel like a startup space. I was just with some DJs on the Phoenix leg of their tour, and I was so inspired by the way that they would never sleep ever, because they were just so excited about the things that they were making. And like one person would go into the living room and cook, the other person would go into the kitchen and cook, but not food. And then they would both show each other stuff, and they would be excited about the stuff that they were showing, and it created this like a real Shakta presence in the house, a flow state, and that's what puja is supposed to do. I think you're more likely to get into that flow state called spirituality if you're like flowing through hatha yoga sequences, if that's your thing, than like learning a complex puja that nobody really even like. But if this is the way you do it, like I like doing it this way, you can. So I just want to do that, you know, because otherwise you're just gonna be like doing the same forms. So fuck yeah. Agent Orange and Purple Sage Sutra.
Yeah, Agent Orange and Purple Sage.
Those words have never been said before. I think that delights Gandhi. Yes, what we got.
Those are two like weed strands that.
I know that you don't know this, but when I was like writing down my vision for the community that I want to build, it was literally art as sadhana.
Exactly. That's why it's so uniquely important that you are the one that's like organizing this. So like you found the Airbnb. And you know, she got robbed, like she had this money that she was just gonna like donate to like getting the Airbnb as just a way to give us a place that wasn't the center. Because when they kicked us out of there, it was like, oh my god, we're not gonna see Shunya Bahini anymore, I'm not gonna see Nyla, like how are we gonna get together? Like where's Sumish, bro? What's going on? Like, and Tantra's not going to let that happen. It's just like, I'm going to take the initiative and just put all the money down, and I don't even care if I break even, and people can pay if they want. Like, how cool, how punk.
That's
and then
great.
she robbed her ex-husband. Just like took all the money out of her retirement fund, and she still somehow finagled this. So thank you, Jess.
Well, I had a lot of help.
I know. I think that's why, right? Because you were uniquely funding it. You wouldn't have had that opportunity. This was something really unique. Maybe I should say something about Vivekananda before we close. Something really unique about Vivekananda is that he kept being offered huge sums of money by Maharajas to go to America and preach this stuff. He refused to take that because he was worried that if a single Maharaja were to give him the endowment that would take him to America, he would be beholden to that Maharaja. And he would say, I'm going to America to preach this idea not for any one king or their vanities. I'm going there to support all of India, and so the money must come from them. In other words, he's introducing the idea of shareholders, and he's saying that every Indian must be a shareholder in his project and feel like they're part of that project. And so he would gather money from people, which kind of feels weird because if the Maharaja has money, why do you take money from the fishermen? Because he feels like the fishermen should have a stake. So in your sourcing the funds, digital funds from everybody, and in all of your projects generate it to be able to do this, I think that was more in keeping with the model.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Again, one thing. On the topic of Vivekananda, I think I know what I'm gonna do. So I've been, a few months ago, I started a reading of Paradise Lost, and I want to do a dramatic reading of one of the monologues. I have a couple ideas for which one of Lucifer's speeches, but that's what I'm gonna do.
You should draw my quote earlier.
I'm sorry?
You should draw my quote earlier, my Paradise Lost foreshadowing. That was from Paradise Lost. Better to reign in hell than to rule in heaven.
Absolutely.
Better to reign in hell than serve in heaven.
Awake, arise, and we forever follow.
There you go.
So Meshwara doing a dramatic reading of sections of Milton's Paradise Lost, which Vivekananda said he never respected anybody more than Satan in Milton's Paradise Lost. Dude, what could what a menu! What a set list, right?
Yeah.
What a set list! Fuck.
Yeah.
Interesting festival.
It's an interesting festival. Wow, this itself is a cool art project. Right? I don't think that we've done a Tantra retreat like this before.
I have a second comment.
Yes, fuck yes, we got.
First of all, I'm gonna be down with the clown, most importantly.
Oh yeah.
Fuck yeah.
But secondly, it's so funny because it's I produce a lot of art. I'm very obsessive about it, and I edit a lot. That's my other primary form of art. And I left my laptop. I was like, I'm not gonna take my laptop. And as you're sitting here and you do too.
I left my laptop and I'm like, I could make a PowerPoint.
We can play Minecraft. Well, so I left my laptop and we were talking. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll edit something crazy, but I can't. And I think it's on purpose because I realized to be able to make things like that, I'm very selfish with my time. But something that I love about being around people, which I don't do like this as often as I should, is that I love to see people do things that they want to do. The fact that you want to do a PowerPoint, I'm I cannot fucking wait. I want to see that shit, and I want to see you as the teacher. I want to just see you as this character, I don't know. I want to see that, and I feel like I would like to be of service with my time. So whatever that would mean for anybody.
Let's all give you art then, since you always do art.
I love that. I want it all. I want projects, and I want to give to other people and stay away from my own. I mean, I'm still gonna paint my own stuff, but I want to be able to detach from that and be no, I'm going to give my time to somebody else because I pretty much just do that for you.
I would love for you to help me with my acrylic techniques because I'm not good with acrylics.
Dude, I'm all about it. If anybody wants into my paint stuff, you can just do that. Just a little duffel bag.
I'm gonna need to do readings to make this PowerPoint. I need to actually do the thing to come up with the words. So if anyone wants a reading.
Oh, right.
See, just amazing. I love it. Yeah.
Whether you realize it or not, you definitely want a reading.
I like
it. I do. She's Cancer Mercury. I want the reading.
I think a tarot reading as art. I love that. Your art contribution is giving someone access to your energetic.
Have you ever seen her
space.
do one?
I've never gone reading from someone.
Dude, it's so fucking organic. It's crazy. It's so chaotic and it's so beautiful.
Let her do it.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, sure.
Wow, that's such a cool thing to say. Two things. One, we have to fucking get lit. Because ladies, your mind is it's always a celebration. And two, the let's give the prana.
Mhm.
What baby coded things to say. Just
I'm
contribute
here to be
prana.
ripped apart. Just
Just like the chakra is set and there's like energy flowing through the chakra where it needs to be at any given moment. And it's just so cool. Like, yeah. I'm just so excited about like the conceptual, like can you imagine a dissertation for someone in a university? Like this would be such a cool dissertation for so many reasons. But like what's better than a dissertation? The thing that was done that produced a dissertation. Like we're doing a thing that was so cool. Anything else?
I'd like to say something about punk
Please.
rock. This was the first tattoo I ever got, which is the 4 bars, which is actually, I would say this is the first significant yantra I ever encountered.
What?
Because when I saw this, it had a major impact on my consciousness. And if y'all don't know, this is the logo for a band called Black Flag, which is one of the most important American bands of all time because they really push the DIY philosophy to new levels.
Yeah.
And then there, Greg Ginn, who was a guitar player, he wrote most of the songs for Black Flag. He had a record label called SST, which, by the way, was his little electronics company first, and he used to just tinker around with electronics. He took all his money from the electronic stuff that he did and he put it into a record label. And he was, I mean, he didn't even break even in the beginning for many, many years. It was just about doing the art. So there was another band on SST Records called Minutemen.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
And there's this great documentary called We Jam Econo about Minutemen. But so Black Flag and Minutemen were 2 of my biggest influences whenever I was growing up, whenever I was a kid. And I was in the punk rock scene in bands and shit like that. But Mike Watt had a Ford Econoline band, and they toured all over the U.S. in that, and they booked their own tours, and there was nothing at that time. They had to blaze a trail.
Yes, right.
They went west to east, so it's kind of like a return of the cowboy ethos,
Right,
but
they're
they're
bringing
bringing it back. So last year, Ashley and I took some of the members of our Kula from Boston to Seattle in a Ford
like
Econoline.
Go back.
Yeah. And so I did that because it was a dream of mine. I was inspired by Mike Watt and the Minutemen and the whole punk movement to do that. And a lot of, like, when Ash and I first got together, we sold everything and we traveled around the United States in a van, in a much smaller van than what we have now, and we put up posters for Ride the Tiger Yoga all over the country, and we did it DIY style. In my head, I was thinking about Black Flag the whole time, how they used to post flyers up all over the place. And so we did it. We did it like a punk band. And yeah, so I owe a lot to that inspiration from that art. So to me, this is just the same thing. I'm being inspired by everybody here.
Yeah, and like, if I can add to it, there's been a recent resurgence of punk and hardcore music in South Florida right now. And I have been able to go into that space and really see what that place is about. And like, the energy there is like, you know, there's a drummer holding a beat, but everyone is moving differently in their own way. And that's the beauty of it. And it's just like, no one's thinking about what they're doing because they're just like they're just going on it. Like, they're just fucking, like in the crazy shit would happen because people would just be moving like that, and like a whole speaker will fall, and like shit will break. Shit breaks all the time on a hardcore show. Like,
wait, that's a really important point. Like in the act of fervor and creation, destruction is implied. Like if you make a lot of art, like it must burn at the edges. You just want to have space, and so you have to like incinerate, right? What to say if you incinerate up the front? But like you cannot create without destruction. So you're right. The more food you eat, the more you push out.
Oh yeah.
As it were, the more art you create, like your contribution in creating art is like crowding out things that your art will destroy, including those institutions that we're not a part of. Not that we don't destroy them. It's just that like sometimes it's time for the old to be like cleansed.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of a hardcore show.
We're back to cooking.
Always.
It's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen the sequel to that detective show Knives Out? I forgot what it was called.
Oh.
The Glass Onion.
Glass
Whatever.
Onion.
Yeah, there was like this guy. It was so funny. He was like this like sellout guy, but he has these red bands around his wrist, which is really interesting. But he has like this collection of people who are like really successful in life, and he calls them like their break. He's like, these are my breakers. That's what he calls them. And he's like, you know what's special about all of you is like you broke something in society that people wanted to be broken, but didn't want to do it themselves. And that's what made you like, and like they manifested the success of that as money, which is why they're all miserable. But like the original push behind all the things that they did, like fashion designing and all that shit, was like they like took something that they fucking hated and like realized that everybody hated and did just because it's nonchalant and normal to do, and they're like, fuck it, we're not gonna do that anymore, and we're gonna make a trend out of it. You know?
Yeah. It's in the avatar when he says something or she says something, it should feel like you already had that idea. The avatar is an instantiation of what everyone is feeling, but like he actually did it.
Yeah.
And so like all art should feel like duh. Like this was the moment in culture for it, right? Yeah. And so think of Michael Jackson, 3 a.m, he's calling his producer, it's like we all have to go to the studio. And he's saying like if we don't record this song right now, Prince will get it. And Rick Rubin talks about this a bit in his art theory. He's like, there is a will that's all pervasive and it expresses, it pushes itself like vomiting into the universe. And like right now, all the stuff that you just expressed, like that's that will trying to come into the world. Like if you're not going to do it, it will come. But it'll come somewhere else, which is beautiful. So you will do it at some point. But when you do it, you do it. It's going to sound like obvious, like duh, of course we did that. Like for instance, like I'm saying this stuff, it's like kind of like spontaneous or whatever. I'm realizing what this is in context of all the other retreats that we've done. Notice that this might be the first like fully Kriya-oriented retreat. Like what we're doing now is kind of Jnana-oriented, right? Like the Icha is obviously implied, always. But usually we do Jnana, like, this is Jnana. Like we could do this forever because we're nerds and this is fun and this is itself a kind of Kriya, but its emphasis is on language, on concept, on thought, on the intellectual plane. We're jamming. Very rarely do we do Kriya, and the kind of Kriya I want is this, like inspired. So the Icha of the Kriya can't be like Karma Yoga is like, okay, go and dig a hole and like, you know, no option to do Kriya. But I've always detested the Seva model that like spiritual communities have, because it's just like do tasks. But like, no, your job is not here to wash dishes unless it is. I think you were meant for greater things than cleaning up an ashram. I think you were meant for destroying structures that no longer serve us, so much so that people are like, I've always wanted to destroy that. And I think we're called to something. That's why I'm so happy you guys are here, because to me, you guys are like an institution that is doing things in the spiritual world in a way that's uniquely different from the way other institutions do it, and to me, uniquely punk. Just having fun doing it their own way. And like, they're unique. And I think Kali likes that. Like the mother dynamism enjoys uniqueness, abhinava, you know, ever new. The Shrividya, the Navatma, it's like new. It's like the word 9 means new. And so what we're doing now is new. We're not doing it the way that other people did it. And for the first time in my life, I'm like willing to. You know, I'm like trying to step away from my tendencies towards more like deference for lineage and authority and lean towards what I'm learning in America, which inspired me as a kid, which is fidelity to inspiration and eccentricity. And I think this retreat, focusing on Kriya, but Kriya as art making, is I think the Icha Jnana Kriya with an emphasis on Kriya and Icha. It's like, therefore I think it's like, it's innovative in a way that excites me, and therefore I must excite Kali. Yes, I'm glad. This is our founding of our institution, like, and the values that we'll have, which I think is an anti-institutional appeal. It's an invitation to other people to do it their own way. You know, it's exciting. Anything else before?
Yeah. The Shravana community was planning on making a devotional poetry book, which you're aware of.
Nice.
For Ma. And so what I'm going to do during this retreat is any of the submissions that are already available or which get submitted within this time frame, I'm going to do the layouts and put out the initial copy of the book. It'll probably expand later. And another thing that had slowed the process down and sort of was a barrier for me personally was I wanted it to be less my own stuff and more like the community stuff. But now I'm like, okay, well, great. But if I'm going to be motivating a community of people to make submissions and so forth, well, I better match it. So it's going to have plenty of my own stuff
Make
too.
like an expansion pack.
I will, yes. Yeah. It was intended to be a series anyway, really. And another thing, just for the amusement of it, I'm using Affinity as the program for doing the compositing and so forth. And the file extension is funny. And the book's called, the file name is shakti.af. So
This is pretty shocking. Did you see how his whole bhava changed? Like, guys, what the fuck? Why are we doing Purusharnas? Because like, here we are. Like saying, I will do 100,000 repetitions a month, and that's good, and it's powerful, and it's served me a lot, right? But wasn't that a more meaningful Purusharna? Like, he's intending to do something in the course of 4 days that I think has more value to Kali as a person who will read those poems than Kali in this abstract idea that she's like this being in the sky that's waiting for you to say her name 100,000 times. It's like, call me by your name, talk dirty to me, give me a poem, you know, like, that's the exciting idea. You can see how it links to Vivekananda's Karma Yoga. This is my attempt at using art theory and art making as Karma Yoga to link this idea of God to people, like people service, like worship of people. And I don't need you to chant 100,000 mantras. I want to hear your fucking poetry book, you know? I feel Kali is sitting here waiting for a worship that nobody wants to do because you're all giving her the worship that she got yesterday. But Sri Ramakrishna ate farina pudding when he was alive. Maybe he wants a burrito now. Maybe he's bored with some fucking food every single day. Yeah, I was thinking about this. Like Sri Krishna likes a certain kind of food. So at like the Krishna temples in this country, they always feed him Indian foods. I was in the Culver City temple and I was like, doesn't he get burritos and shit? I was like, he's in California, you think he's gonna want khichdi every fucking day? I'm like, Ma was there in the Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga. You think of the Kali Yuga she wants now in the Kali Yuga, what she got in the Satya Yuga? Like, she's like defined as a girl of many tastes. Sarva Bhava, Sarva Rasa, Sri Ramakrishna too. Don't you think it would be wonderful then to diversify our pujas so much so that each one of you, your Purusharnas will look different? And like, how is this in principle any different from saying we'll do, you know? But you set the time. You have parameters. You now use Tattva maths. You cannot create without parameters. You know, so you can say like, this emphasis is towards Sankocha, Kriya, that's moving. And your spiritual practices thus far have often been Samhara. You know, you've been like moving towards the spaciousness of non-dual consciousness, which means removing. Because society has done nothing but give you limitations. Now, choose my yoke, for my yoke is easy and my burden light. The idea is that what you're rejecting is structure, but structure is imposed by society. But what if those same things, those same structures would burden you, now empower you? That's called a market.
Because they come from you.
They come from you. So you have the power now to make your own structures for your own ends. And so you will never work for anyone else ever again. And in your being a mountain, you'll make the greatest mountain range there ever was. And Kali and Shiva only ever fucking talk in the mountains. Let's be mountains. I'm done.
Or
like,
underwater.
Or underwater. Or underwater.
Which is
the peaks of the bottom, the kutas.
How do you put it? The dream space, the subconscious space.
Yes, yeah. And like, think of how long I've like sheltered under the shade of big mountains, out of this like humility as it were.
Oh, just a weird observation. So I was working on my Padati a while back, and I was looking for the for mantras and so forth related to the planetary ruler and the devatas of various nakshatras, right? And there's always been one nakshatra, even though I don't appear to have any real connection to it in my chart, which is Kritika. And everything that I've read about it, I had this intuition a while back that that region of space had to do with dreams, art, the flow of the subconscious. And then, like, apparently the interpretations of Kritika and those deities is creative fire. And so the deities apparently are Agni and Surya. And so originally my Padati had my Kritika aspect of it at the end of it. Then I'm like, you know what, no, I'm going to put that first, because that's the whole point of art, is the fire and the consciousness represented by the sun, as you've spoken about in lectures before, the observing principle of the sun being the start of puja in certain contexts. So those two together, and this art project, it just seems to make sense.
Yes, and notice the moon and the sun, like the traditions kind of flip them. Which is cool because they're playing off of this idea that you can approach it from Seattle to, like, you can go from the west to the east, or you can go from the east to the west, which says like limitations can be used to go into nature and they can be removed to go back to Kali. Like the idea of Kali as Sankocha, like this idea of going to a Srishti Krama and Samhara Krama.
So it's cool that you're going this way.
And the and Shravana is apparently ruled by Vishnu and the moon. And apparently on my chart, Shravana is like directly opposite my ascendant and my solar.
See, that's
so
what we
like,
can use.
I looked at it as a pilgrimage, a journey always.
We could use more like astrology stuff like this. Like our Jyotish kind of a bit lacking on my end. So this is cool, right? Like I don't know these things.
I'm pulling this out of my ass. Don't take it as canonical.
Same. Like that's like the jam, right? We're not like limiting ourselves to like it being canonical.
Yeah.
And that's what gives us the freedom, I think.
That could be
Cool.
cool too, my stuff.
Yeah, right. So I think we have the idea. Does anybody want to throw anything else in before like we wrap it up? And again, it's like it's whatever. It's like between you and
There's a poster of a cow in the bathroom, and it's looking around the door saying, "Are you pooping?"
You feel like poop symbolism, like.
I just riffing off what you said earlier.
It feels like the sun is rising.
No, you should see that moon out there.
We got a little minute before that happens.
It's beautiful.
No, it's only 1
We should go
o'clock.
outside. Yeah, why is it so early? Like, this is so crazy. I feel like it's 5 in the morning.
Well, you're on the East Coast.
Yeah.
I feel like it's earlier. Okay, I'm pretty satisfied. Does anyone want to throw anything in here before? There's Skylar, she has a guitar. If you didn't bring yours, you probably brought yours. So there are 2 guitars. And like that's cool.
I only know 3 chords in the truth.
Wow, I only know 3 chords in the truth.
Yeah, shit.
Will you teach me those 3 chords?
Of course.
Like not the truth.
I'm not
She
gonna
has
do
that.
that. Even after my
Like the final formation that you become the.
I know. Then I'll be Dixie Chick. Yeah.
Yeah. A lost Dixie chick.
3 chords in the truth. Jerry Garcia.
That's a song. 3 chords in the truth.
You don't know what chords in I do.
Oh,
great.
That's actually true.
I don't know a single.
That's the first time that's happened in my life.
That's 3 more chords than Nilo plays. I don't even know that we call that guitar anymore. Like, Nilo's just like a magician. It's all wood and strings and does weird shit. So cool. Yeah. Cool. But like hopefully you can see how this is like applying all our concepts, right? Like Sankocha as power, not as obstacle. Kriya Shakti as opposed to Jnana Shakti, right? Like all of this should be conceptually based. And if it's not, that's why like Bhairu Nicholas, like what we're doing is so cool. It's like that's what challenges, like, the thing that we said in the beginning. For this to work, there must be the responsibility of explaining and doing exegesis and like basics. Otherwise it just becomes idiosyncratic, like kindergarten like things that we do, and that could be also cool. But like it's a tradition. We do have text and sources and corroboration. We don't have to reinvent the wheel principally. But I think once we have the principle, we can make all sorts of different versions of that wheel. And what is a chakra if not that? So I feel like I think basic like housekeeping situations. The first one is that like for this to work in its maximally free way, we must always reserve the right to like walk out of a room and enter into a room. You know, so the kaula space is one without what is called achara, and achara means formalities. You know, a formality would be like, oh, when the teacher walks into the room, you all stand up, and when the teacher sits, you sit down. That would be a traditional Gurukula learning environment. You know, or like when tea is served, you serve the teacher first, or in the Kaula community, the teacher's wife or women first. And these are called acharas. You will find that many Kaula texts will present acharas that you follow religiously, but they're just different from the ones you're like used to, or they are transgressive. So offer with the left hand, offer the woman first, offer the youngest first, things like that, right? Yeah. But there's also another project which is a laissez-faire kind of like anything goes achara. And the question is, how do I know this is not going to become dangerous? Like, how do I know that everyone in that space, when given like purge level license to where the fuck they want, how would that be like a safe space? And the argument is that because these would be very closed inner circles. Like you would trust everyone in that space. You know, like you would feel safe being in a space with other people without rules. Arguably the rules are like the Leviathan Thomas Hobbes thing, where you just have this idea that without them we would like fucking kill each other.
Any harm, none, do as you will.
Yes. Like that's it. Once you're allowing yourself to do what you will, maybe you don't feel like impeding someone else's ability. So for this to work, it must be like you should feel just as comfortable sitting down and like taking a reading from Sonu or like attending a lecture as you would like walking to another room and like working on something. That's why I like the space. Like in the Vedanta side, it's like cool, but we don't have the ability to roam where the fuck we want. There's like such a space, and like it would be cool to feel like you can go where you want to go, and you don't need an invitation or you don't need permission. That's like one cool thing I think.
And imagine we could bring that with us into society. We'd be fruit-centric artists.
That's why raves are so cool. Is like they have different rooms. It's like you can like they each have a different vibe, you know.
Breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Let's break out in my own room. Like it's like just cool.
Yeah.
I want to use space in a way. So let's just like feel free and like not be offended or like trust that like when a person's leaving a space, it's not because your art sucks. Because your art sucks. They've got something better to do. Thank God, right? Thank God. Like, can you imagine if the Indian parent understood this and allowed their kid not to be an accountant? Like the reason why I would argue the goddess is forsaking the world is because we tell women what they can or cannot do more than we tell anyone in the world what they can or cannot do. And we tell children what they can or cannot do. And then
there's a bunch of jackals howling right now.
No! Fuck, yeah, I think it's Homa time.
Still catch one.
That's so I caught one. Yeah, I mean that's
nice.
Like I mean, Wales of all the women and children that are being told they can't do this or can't do that. Maybe we just need to give permission. Like feel like okay, let's have permission in this space to do what we want when we want, to sleep when we want, to eat when we want. Like often retreats don't have that. You get into a hive mind. Like this is mealtime, you know? Or like this is lecture time. Like remember we were talking about schedule?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, yeah, like let's do it differently. We're not gonna have Kuleshwari teaches yoga at 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. and then we go on a walk and then we have a little lecture. Like that's cool. But Vivekananda didn't do that at Thousand Islands Park. Right. You know, going off the Vivekananda model at Thousand Islands Park, it's kind of like if the lecture is 8 hours, it's 8 hours. If it's 8 minutes, it's 8 minutes. And sometimes we're at a picnic or sometimes we're like formally sitting outside his room on the veranda looking at the full moon. Like the way Thousand Islands Park is depicted is like inspired, obsessed people getting together to do a thing that's cool, which is talk about ideas that they're all mutually excited about, and just allowing that to go where it wants to go anytime. So you just think
what Christ did too.
What Christ, exactly. That's why I was thinking, like, why do we have these structures which don't help? Because if they help, they help. But they can't help because they're for everyone. So how can one person decide a structure for anyone else? Mm-hmm. So structure is good, but only when you have your own. So you should wake up when you want, go to bed when you want, like participate or not participate as you like and when you like, contribute what or when you like. It's really cool. Yes. Cook what you like. Why do you have to eat the food that like the person who's designated to cook cooks? How exciting. I'm just excited by that new model. We cool? Yeah? Secret sankalpas are perfectly welcome. No sankalpas are also perfectly welcome. She'll do something anyway. And often these things, you're right, are subtler than maybe our conventions will allow us to notice. You're possibly going to be creating something that cannot appear in this plane. And that's like valid too, right? But I hope you like the idea. It's cool.
No.
I love the idea.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, I hate the idea. But
Indian arranged marriage.
I think that's why I love it.
Keeps us together. Okay, let's do a closing prayer and then what the fuck we want. I'm gonna go closing prayer. You're not fucking go closing prayer. Right? Okay. I just thought about that. Let's do prayer. Om Mahamaye Jagan Mataha Kalike Ghora Dakshine Grihana Vandanam Mata Sada Vijaya Vardhanahi Sada Vijaya Vardhanaha Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Saradarpanam Astu Shri Kaulamardarpanam Astu Shri Sangarpanam Astu Om Peace. Oh, let's turn off that.
Oh, it's 108, by the way.
Magical thinking.
Thinking is magic. Fucking brains, how do they work?
See, he's already getting down with the lounge. Do you see that?
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
What is that?
Huh? What's that?
What is that?
Huh?
Ramen.
What? Thank you.
Hey, could you hear? Was it like audible? Was it muffled?
Yeah.
Otherwise, huh?
Oh, it was quiet sometimes, but if I had headphones on, I'd hear it. Okay, thank you.
But you could like hear the words. Like, do I need to bring the computer closer? You think?
It would probably be beneficial if you did, because some of it was muffled, but I got the gist of it. You know, I was in the bob in the vibe.
Okay, let's bring it closer tomorrow then. Okay. Maybe I'll for the lecture I can sit here if I do one. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay,
you guys are also free to tell us. Yeah, if something is not going well with the production quality. You guys can always unmute.
Get a clip on
I'm just so grateful. Honest to God, like
It looks like the
if it
emoji.
exists, I would still have in heart.
I look exactly like the emoji.
We gotta do a clip on mic.
Yeah.
Smiling hat.
Love your hat.
Isn't it fucking cool? I'm like kind of attached to it now. I feel like sick as fuck.
Oh, I'm getting one. I was like, am I gonna get a sun hat? I was like, I don't have sun hats in my vibe, but like this? Fuck yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for turning me on to this. Like, this is...
She said thank you so much for turning me on. Fuck. It's those hours. Bye, you guys. We miss you here, Kalidasi. I was just there, you know, yesterday.
I had to be sick and ruin everything as usual. It's like,
Glad we got out, but no.
poor baby.
Kentucky.
Submit some poems.
Yeah, send some poems.
I know you
Yeah,
got
I feel like my quality is like your quality and shit.
Oh,
So,
God. DM me that shit.
Right? Not better or worse, just different. Almost as if we are hierarchical pluralists. Krishna is the highest reality.
I love you guys so much. Have so much fun.
Bye, you guys. Thanks for coming online. Day 1,
Bye.
Kentucky Tantra Revolution.
Oh my gosh.
Bye.
Fuck yeah.
Wild, Wild West Kentucky Tantra Revolution.
Wow.
Kentucky Fried Tantra.
Yeah!
Kentucky Fried Tantra.
There's a big rebel sentiment in Kentucky.
Yeah.
We'll put it to much better use than it is.
Non-hierarchical pluralists. That soil is full of rebel blood, so we can run. They walk so we can run.
Fuck yeah.
They shot so we can thought. I don't know. Bye, you guys.
Go.
It's all downhill from here. Drama.
I've never seen this before in cowboy hat. It's
Yeah?
so crazy. Like, you need like a